So today's lecture is about the central nervous system tracts. So first of all, we must know what is the basic concept about the tract, what is meant by the tracts. Let me tell you one thing. Let's suppose that there are a lot of rats sitting here. These are many rats. I don't know how to draw rats, but anyway, and they are having tails, and their tails are going upward, and if all these tails together making a bundle of tails, right? This bundle of tails, right? This can be called tract. Let me tell you how. Neuron may be taken as a rat. Every neuron has a long axon. In central nervous system, if a group of neurons having lot of axons, and these axons are making a bundle, and that bundle of axons, right, which are moving up and down in central nervous system, they are considered tract, right? So what are tracts? Tracts are the bundle of axons within the central nervous system, having common origin, common termination, and tracts are moving up and down. Let me make this concept more clear. First of all, you must know what is the difference between gray matter and white matter in central nervous system, right? As I told you, let's suppose that these are some neurons, cell bodies of neurons, and these are their axons, right? Now, this collection of cell bodies, this is called gray matter. What is it called? Gray matter. And these, their axons, they are called white matter. If we think neurons are like rats and very long tails, then where a lot of rats are sitting together, what is that? Gray matter. And where a lot of tails are going, what is that? White matter. So first concept should be there, what is gray matter and what is white matter in central nervous system. Then next concept which is important is that in the central nervous system, let me draw this as suppose your central nervous system, right? Now, there are some neurons which are present at lower level, and their axons are going up. Of course, this bundle of axon is white matter. And when white matter is making bundles, and these bundles of axons are moving up and down, they are called tracts. The bundle of axons which are moving from lower level of central nervous system, moving as a bundle to upper level, right, they are considered ascending tracts. Opposite to that, let's suppose there are a group of neurons here, cell bodies, and these are their white matter or axons, and these axons are coming downward in the neuronal axis. Now, this bundle of axons which are having common origin, common termination, is that right? So this bundle of axon, this is called also tract, but because cell bodies are at upper level and axons are coming downward, so this should be considered descending tracts. So what are tracts? Tracts are bundles of axon, right, which are having common origin and common termination, and they are present in the central nervous system in cephalocaudal axis. They are connecting the central nervous system upper part with the lower part, and lower part of the central nervous system with the upper part. Now those tracts which take the information from the lower part of the central nervous system to the upper part, they are called ascending tracts. And those tracts which take information from the upper part of the central nervous system and bring it down, they are called descending tract. Is that right? Another thing which I want to make it clear here, as you know that axons together are called white matter. Is that right? That is called white matter. And this white matter we have divided into vertically present, up and down. And these are which are vertically connecting. These are of course tracts. And what will be this? This is ascending tract. And this is, yes, descending tract. Then there is some white matter which connect the central nervous system anteroposteriorly. There are some bundles of axons which connect the central nervous system anteroposteriorly. What are these called? Yes, please. Yes, please. The bundle of axon which connect the central nervous system components anteroposteriorly. For example, frontal lobe connected with occipital, right? These are called, they associate the anterior part of central nervous system with the posterior part, and posterior part is associated with the anterior part. They are called association fibers. So white matter has tracts as well as association fibers. Is that right? And third type is that there are other bundle of axons which connect the central nervous system right and left. There are, of course, what is white matter? White matter is just collection of axons. Is that right? Collections of cell bodies are gray matter and collection of axons are white matter. Then white matter or collection of axons are making bundles and connecting up and down in the central nervous system. These are tracts. When same bundles connecting anteroposteriorly, they are called association fiber. And when they are connecting right and left, they are called, yes please, they are called commissures. They are called commissures. Why I revise a little bit this thing, that I want to put the tracts into proper perspective in your mind. Right? That tracts are white matter, association fibers are white matter, commissural fibers are white matters. All of these are fibers. The only difference is tracts are those bundles of fibers which connect in central nervous system up and down. Association fibers are those bundle of axons which connect the central nervous system anteroposteriorly or postero-anteriorly. And commissures are those central nervous system fibers which connect the central nervous system components right and left. Is that clear? Can you give me some example of a commissure? Please tell me corpus callosum. There's such a big commissure which connects the right cerebral hemisphere with the left and of course left with the right. And there are many other commissures in central nervous system. Is that right? Now, once you have really clear concept of what are tracts, now I will make some concept related with the ascending tracts and descending tracts, right? And then we will deal with individual tracts. To really develop the concept of ascending and descending tract, you should go back to the very basic concept how central nervous system works. The function of central nervous system is that it should receive all the sensory information. It should receive the sensory information. Then it should process the sensory information, and then it should make the decisions. This is the basic function of the central nervous system. Let's suppose here is your central nervous system, right? Now here is your hand. Now suddenly you touch your hand with a very hot thing. So naturally what will happen? Some stimulus will come, you to touch your finger with something hot, right? Now that information should go to the central nervous system. Information number one should go to the central nervous system. Of course, when you have a stimulus, right? When you have a stimulus, a certain receptor will be activated. What will be activated? Receptor will be activated. Okay, don't get something very hot, maybe it will burn. Okay, you touch something very decent and you love to touch it, and then you start touching it again and again. How will it work? You're touching it, you liked it, and then you started touching again and again. I'm talking about you. Now, how the whole nervous system worked? You touch it, the stimulus of touch, mechanical stimulus, should be converted into electrochemical action potentials. So what really happens? When you touch something, there should be some apparatus here, which should convert stimulus energy, into action potential, right? So that electrochemical fluctuations, which are called action potential, should move along the axons to the central nervous system, right? Now, this apparatus which convert the energy of a stimulus into electrochemical fluctuations, right? This apparatus is called, what is the name of this apparatus? These are called receptors. Oh my God, you people hide your knowledge. Write it down. What are receptors? Neuronal receptor, write it down. If you don't know that, you don't know anything about nervous system. What are receptors? Receptors are transducers, biological transducers. Then you must be asking, what is transducer? Transducers are certain operators which can convert one type of energy into another type of energy. Anything, any biological thing which can convert one type of energy into another type of energy, that is called transducers. And in our body, such biological transducers are simply called receptors. So what are receptors? You must know the definition at least. Receptors are special operators, right? That may be free nerve endings, or there may be some special group of cells attached with the nerve ending, which can convert a very special type of stimulus energy into electrochemical energy of action potential. Is that right? These are called receptors. Do you have receptor for electromagnetic waves? You don't have it. Do you have receptors for electromagnetic wave? That electromagnetic wave come to your body and you convert that into action potential and respond to that? No. Okay, you don't have it. I think these two are blinds. Oh my God, light is the visible part of the electromagnetic waves. And you do have light receptors. They are called rods and cones. What are rods and cones? Very unique operators which can convert visible light energy into action potential in optic nerve. Oh my God, you people are really... No comments. Stop recording. Right? So we must know what is receptor. Receptors are the biological apparatuses usually at the end of the sensory nerve endings which are supposed to convert the particular type of stimulus into action potentials. Right? Taste buds are chemical receptors. The chemicals in the food can be tasted. They can convert the taste chemical interaction into action potentials. Even when you have some very good smell of fragrance or cologne, what are those things? From there are evaporating molecules which go to your nose, then they go to the olfactory mucosa. In the olfactory mucosa there are receptors. When your very good smell molecules interact with those receptors, this chemical interaction is converted into action potential. This is the very first and basic concept in sensory nervous system, that there should be a receptor. And sometimes free nerve endings act as receptors. Is that right? So, we are talking about ascending tracts. I will come to that. Let me put it at right position in your mind. First of all, when you are touching something, the mechanical deformation, suppose someone touch me here, right? Just slight deformation in the tissue will activate certain receptors. And those mechanical receptors will convert the mechanical energy into action potential. And if stimulus is not subthreshold, stimulus is threshold or suprathreshold, action potential will start moving in the sensory nerves. So there should be receptor, and then from the receptors, action potential through the sensory nerves should come to the central nervous system. Once action potentials are brought to the central nervous system, for example, spinal cord, it brings a lot of action potentials. Is that right? Through 31 pairs of nerves. Is that right? A lot of action potentials are coming to the spinal cord. Some decisions are made within the spinal cord, but some decisions have to be made at the higher level. Is that right? So, this information which is coming to the central nervous system, it may be taken upward. It is taken at higher level through a chain of neurons. For example, it goes up to the cerebral cortex. Now, these bundles which are taking these biological cables, which are taking the information from lower level to the upward, these are ascending tracts. Then in the central nervous system, decision will be made. For example, you have touched someone and that person respond unfavorably. And then you decide to pull your hand in a very sad way backward. Is that right? Now what happened? You touched, action potential came, you are in the process of enjoying here, then with the eyes you see unpleasant response. Again, more information through the eyes goes and you decide that response may be dangerous by the other person. Is that right? What happens? Central nervous decision is to pull the hand back. Then, from higher center, orders should come down. What is this? Descending tract. What is this? Descending tract. And of course, then a very sad neuron, black colored, it is taking the information to the muscles to pull the finger back. What is this? Motor neuron. This is the simplest form how the central nervous system works. It collects the information, it processes the information, it makes a decision and sends the order out. The collection system is, there is a receptor, then there are sensory neurons coming to central nervous system, then there are ascending tracts, then higher level processing, then there are descending tracts, then there are motor nerves, and in the end there is the effector system. Effector system may be a muscle or gland. Sometimes gland response, if there is a very good food, with very good smell, how the system will work? Smell, receptor in the olfactory mucosa, action potential to central nervous system. Central nervous system decides a good smell, last time you enjoyed it. So pathways will come down, stimulate the certain motor neurons, which stimulate the parotid gland and other salivary glands, and you start producing saliva. Or if someone else is a host, then maybe you decide to give a smile also, so that he start the food activity for you. Is that right? So this is the basic thing. Now we are very clear what are tracts. These are the bundles of the neurons, right? And ascending tracts take the information from lower part of the central nervous system and take it upward. And descending tract take the decisions from central nervous system and bring at the lower level. So by this discussion, now it must be very clear, whenever we talk about the ascending tract, no doubt they must be always for the sensory system. They will be always connected with the sensory system. And whenever we talk about descending tracts, they must be connected with the motor system. Is that clear to you people? Fine. Now we go into detail of tracts. What do you think? In the spinal cord, tracts will be part of white matter or gray matter? Of course, they must be part of white matter. So let's see in the spinal cord, a little bit structure of spinal cord. Right, let's suppose here is your spinal cord. Is that right? And here is central canal. What do you think? What are these things? These are cell bodies of neurons. So this must be gray matter or white matter? Gray matter, right? Gray matter and spinal cord makes a butterfly shape or H shape, right? And this gray matter, these blue circles are the rats, neuron cell body, right? What is really there? This is dorsal horn of the gray matter of the spinal cord. These are ventral horn, or simply call it anterior horns and posterior horns. And at some level of the spinal cord, they do have, what is this? Lateral horn of spinal cord. We'll discuss that later. Right now, that is not our concern. Our concern is to talk about the white matter in the spinal cord, which must be having our tracts, which we are going to discuss. Now, white matter in the spinal cord is, this is the white matter, this is the white matter, this is white matter, but let me make it more clear. These are which neurons going out? Do you think these are motor or sensory? These are motor. Right? And what are these neurons going? Okay, I will make it. This is the motor root. This is the motor root of what? Yes, motor root of spinal cord. And here there should be, yes, sensory root. Now, motor fibers come out of central nervous system through, yes, ventral root or motor root. Is that right? And sensory fiber, sensory information is taken to the central nervous system through the dorsal root. And dorsal root ganglion is actually, there is a cell body, right? And from here there is a unipolar. There is one connection coming out and it has one central process. Another is peripheral, which is connected maybe with the skin or whatever. So it has to take information from the periphery, sensory system, taking the information eventually to the dorsal root, and dorsal root is connected with the spinal cord. Is that right? Now, okay, what you understand, this is the ventral root and this is the dorsal root, and dorsal root is having which ganglion? Which ganglion is present in dorsal root? Dorsal root ganglion, right? Then, what is this thing? Both roots unite together, and what they make? This is the trunk of the spinal nerve, classical spinal nerve, right? Ventral root, dorsal root, and trunk, and then it divides into one thing going anteriorly, other going posteriorly. What is this thing? This is always having which fibers? Of course, you are wrong. No, mixed. You have to learn it more clearly. Oh my God, you want to learn tract, but first you have to learn the roots. Okay, listen. What happens? That this is anterior ramus. This is posterior ramus. Sometimes ventral ramus come together and make plexus, which is called like brachial plexus or lumbar plexus. But for a while, you just trust me that from the spinal cord, there are ventral roots and dorsal roots, and together they make the spinal nerve trunk. And that trunk classically divided into ventral ramus and dorsal ramus. Is that right? Ventral ramus is usually innervating the structures in anterolateral wall of the body, and dorsal ramus is going to innervate the structures which are on the back of the body. Is that right? Of course, on the back there's skin, so there must be sensory, but there are muscles also on the back. So it means some motor fibers also go to the back, to the dorsal ramus. In the same way, some sensory fibers are coming through anterolateral skin or anterolateral receptors and structures. Is that right? And some motor fiber must be going to the muscles of anterolateral wall. So this is a very, very basic concept, that roots are pure. Anterior root is purely motor, posterior root is purely sensory, but trunks are mixed and rami are mixed. Am I clear? So it means that sensory information is coming from ventral ramus as well as from dorsal ramus, but when it goes to the trunk, it segregates separately as sensory input to the central nervous system. Motor output from spinal cord is coming through ventral root, right? But after the trunk, motor output goes to dorsal ramus as well as ventral ramus. Am I clear? No problem up to this? Right. Now, basic structures, you know that there are receptors. Receptors are stimulating the neurons, sensory neurons. Sensory neurons are taking information to the spinal cord through the dorsal root ganglion and dorsal root. When information comes to the spinal cord, then ascending tracts have to take the information up. This is a very basic concept. Now, listen. White matter of spinal cord is divided into, this is one white matter. What is this? This whole area of white matter, this is called dorsal column. There are of course two dorsal columns. There are two dorsal columns. Is that right? Or you call it dorsal funiculus. Dorsal funiculus. Dorsal columns or dorsal funiculus. Of course, this is one funiculus and together they are making two funiculi. Is that right? Then these are dorsal columns. And which columns are these? Yeah. These are lateral column. Is that right? What is this? This is lateral column. And what could be this? Anterior column. Of course, here what should be coming out? Motor fibers. And there is of course sensory input. Input is from the back and output is from the front. I'm talking about simple neuroanatomy. right? So, in the spinal cord, how many major white matter areas are there? Dorsal column, lateral column, and anterior column. Is that right? No problem up to this. So when we will talk about the tracts, tracts must be running in dorsal column system or lateral column system or anterior column system. One thing very important. In the dorsal column, there are most only ascending tracts. In the dorsal column, there are only ascending tracts. But in the lateral column, there are ascending as well as descending tracts. In anterior column also, there are ascending and descending both. It's very basic information. The spinal cord has anterior columns, lateral columns, and posterior columns. Is that right? These columns are having tracts. Is that right? For example, if there are a lot of neurons sitting here, and from these neuron cell axons come and go upward from here, so this will be making a tract. Right? What you have to remember, dorsal column is purely ascending tracts. But lateral columns and anterior columns, they have some ascending tracts and some descending tracts. Am I clear? No problem. Now I will talk about different types of tracts, but you know it now that tracts must be either in dorsal column, or they should be in lateral columns, or they should be in anterior column. Before really I go into detail, as far as ascending tract system is concerned, do you think which are more modern and which columns are more primitive? You know, according to the evolution, as we are getting more evolved and better animals, we are bringing more modern neuronal bundles and connections, which are very recently developed. Recently mean few million years back. Out of these, do you think, no, I'm talking about only ascending tracts, right? There are dorsal ascending tract system, there are anterior ascending tracts, and there are lateral. So I'm saying that which one is the most modern? Anyone knows? Anyone who has studied the tracts in history? No, most modern are the dorsal column. Dorsal column. Dorsal column system is the most modern tract system. Ascending tracts. Of course sensory, they are pure sensory. And anterolateral, they are primitive tract systems. Anterolateral tract system is a primitive tract system, ascending tract system. That is why the ascending tracts which are present in anterior column and lateral column, some very good neurologists combine them together, and in the discussion they say there is anterolateral ascending system. Anterolateral is a primitive system, and dorsal is the advanced system, modern system. A very simple question. In America, there are two types of roads. Some roads are so-so, which were made about 100 years back. And the modern roads which they are making, interstate highways and I think motorways, what you call them? The modern ones.
Expressways.
Yeah? Expressways, okay. Actually, this is expressway. I will call it motorway, fast expressways, super road. And this is like for slow sensations. Let me prove it. The bundle, dorsal columns are heavily myelinated, and anterolateral columns are lightly myelinated. So where the traffic will be fast, action potential traffic? Dorsal column. And where it will be slow? In the anterolateral system. So which should be modern then? Dorsal column. High speed system. This is the neuronal expressways, and these are probably dirt roads. They do serve their purpose. Don't laugh at them. They're very important. I will tell you, very soon you will realize a lot of colors of life are due to anterolateral system. But let me tell you, dorsal column system is advanced system. The ascending tracts are heavily myelinated. So that is a high velocity system, low velocity system. high velocity system. Anterolateral system is a primitive system of ascending tracts. So do you think if anterolateral system is a primitive system, it should be heavily myelinated or poorly myelinated? Poorly myelinated. Do you think anterolateral, which is a poor system, it should be high velocity or moderate or slow velocity system? Slow velocity. You know, on dirt road, every car going slow, and on expressway, things are going fast. Another thing. The modern sensations which we have developed, they should be present in dorsal column or anterolateral? Dorsal. And primitive sensations should be present in anterolateral. Is that right? For example, crude touch. Crude touch means not a fine touch. Crude touch. Anterolateral. Very fine touch. Dorsal. Do you need to memorize this? It's so simple. That this is the dirt roads and these are the expressways. This should be high velocity system. This should be anterolateral, should be low velocity system. Anterolateral should be primitive. Dorsal should be advanced. The sensations which are going from the dorsal system should be more well developed sensations, and sensations which are from anterolateral should be crude sensations. Now let me tell you one thing. Anterolateral system has sensations. Okay, first tell me one question, answer something. Do you think the traffic variety of the vehicles is more on the dirt road or variety is more on the expressway? You have never observed. One of the vehicle is donkey driven vehicle. You find it on expressway or on the dirt road? So every type of vehicle will move on the dirt road, primitive road, every type of vehicle. Is that right? You can find on dirt road even Mercedes moving somehow. You will find maybe horse-driven cart on the dirt road. You may find even someone going on the bicycle on the dirt road. But do you think you find horse-driven cart on the expressway? Or do you find someone going on the bicycle on the expressway? No. So variety of traffic should be more in the dorsal column system or anterolateral system? Anterolateral system. Dorsal column system has a high velocity system, very specialized sensations, very good sensations, but more variety of sensation is present in anterolateral system. Let me tell you. You want to know about the anterolateral sensations first or the dorsal sensations first? Anterolateral, primitive you should know first, then we'll talk about the advanced things. Okay, primitive sensations are like sensation of the pain. When biological system evolved, very early it evolved the pain system, so that you know there is something unpleasant and try to do something about that. So pain should go by anterolateral system. Temperature, heat and cold should go by anterolateral. All those sensations which can go a little bit slowly are anterolateral system. And there are some sensations which should go with very high velocity, and those sensations should be analyzed by central nervous system with very accuracy, with big accuracy. Those should be in the dorsal column. Is that right? As I told you, crude touches in anterolateral and fine touches on dorsal column. Is that right? Pain and temperature is in anterolateral. Crude touch is anterolateral. What do you think? Sense of tickling. It's a modern sense or primitive sense? I don't know. Even our forefathers know how to tickle. That's a very primitive sense. I don't think you do anything very modern with the tickling. Right? So those things have been done by our generations, and that is why we are here. Is that right? So tickling. Tickling is a modern sense or primitive sense? Primitive sense. So it must be going through anterolateral system. Okay, itching. It's a very modern sense or it must be primitive? It's an old sense, not a great sense. So it should be in anterolateral. What about sexual sensations? Don't tell me there are no sensations. Sexual sensations, they are different than simple touch. For example, mother touch is a different thing. And girlfriend touch is somewhat different. Am I right? Some element of sex may be added, especially when she is not angry. Is that right? So these sexual sensations should go through Dorsal column system or anterolateral system? You must be thinking as a young boy, it must go dorsal column very fast. But believe me, it's one of the most primitive sensation. Is that right?
That's why we're here.
Yeah?
That's
That's why all of us are here. Yeah, we are the children of the people who made love, thank God. Is that right? So, what I'm talking about, that ventral column system, sexual sensations should go through ventral column, anterolateral system or dorsal system? Anterolateral system. So there's so many variety of sensations. There is crude touch, there is pain, there is heat, cold, tickling, itching, sexual sensations, all these are anterolateral. None of them need to reach to central nervous system with super velocity. But there are some sensations which need to reach the central nervous system with super velocity, and those sensations need to be analyzed by central nervous system with extreme accuracy, right? With extreme accuracy. Those sensations are dorsal column. One I told you already, fine touch. What else goes through dorsal column system? There's a concept of proprioception. Have you heard of the term proprioception? So she's going to tell us what is meant by the proprioception. Anyone? Sensations coming from the locomotor system. That's so simple. Sensations coming from the locomotor system are proprioception. Proprioceptive sensations should go to the central nervous system really fastly. Is that right? For example, you are running. Then your central nervous system need to have very fast data. Which part of the body is in which position? Which muscle is how much tense? Which joint is how much angulated? Is that right? So that you don't any mistake. You know, proprioception and sense of position is very rapidly, constantly given to the central nervous system, so that central nervous system can analyze and update itself very, very rapidly. It should not happen, you take one, you know, when you are walking, did it ever happen by chance you took your both legs off the ground? Thank God. Proprioception is going so well that central nervous system is taking the information from all the systems, locomotor system, and it knows where is one foot, where is the other foot, and when one foot is coming up, the other should remain there, should not be taken off. Is that right? And when it is coming down, then it should be taken off. Because central nervous system is constantly having trillions and trillions of action potential through the dorsal column system going to the higher level. Right? And it is computing and updating its information. Am I clear? So proprioception should go by anterolateral system or dorsal column system? Dorsal. And what about this, more refined thing? Sense of position, which is a type of proprioception. Dorsal column. Because position, even with your closed eyes, you know what is the position of your body. Right now you know how you have crossed leg or how are your hands. Are you aware or not? You were not thinking, but as soon as I said, you started thinking. Actually, central nervous system is receiving the sense of position at two levels. One level is where you are aware of sense of position, and other level where you are not aware. When you are aware of your sense of position, we say that sense of position of proprioception is going up to the conscious level. That information goes up to cerebral cortex. Whenever action potentials, sensory information come to cerebral process, cerebral cortex, you become aware of the sensations. But lot of sensory action potential and sensory input is going to the cerebellum. And information which is going to the cerebellum, you are not aware of that. When you are walking and looking to someone else, are you taking care how your legs are moving? No. Cerebellum is automatically computing, taking the proprioception from the ascending tracts. Some of the ascending tract go to cerebellum, and then cerebellum control and compute the motor system automatically. You are even not aware of. When you are sitting right now, and when you are not thinking of your position, you are not knowing the position, but your cerebellum was knowing your position. Is that right? Every moment. But you are not aware of that. But as soon as I said, do you know where are your hands without looking at them and how your legs are, then what happened? You activated the channel which are already taking information to proprioception to cerebral cortex. Is that right? So what I was telling you, that a lot of input is going on, and proprioception as well as you can say fine touch, sense of vibration, sense of position, sense of 2-point discrimination, right? All these senses are modern senses, and they must go by the dorsal column system. Is that right? If something vibrating touching you, or something which is repeatedly moving, of course, if such information is going by a slow system, you will not analyze it well. Is that right? Or there is a sense called 2-point discrimination. 2-point discrimination means that you are simultaneously touching the skin at 2 very close points, and central nervous system knows that these are 2 separate points. That analysis is done by the that action potentials are taken by the dorsal column system. Another thing, do you think the traffic which is going on the expressway, that is more in the proper columns, or traffic which is going on the dirt road, that is in more proper columns? In the lane and line system for the traffic is more followed on the expressways or more followed on the dirt roads? Expressways. Same is true about this system. The tracts which are taking information in dorsal column system, right, those tracts take information so well, right, that you can localize everything. For example, maybe this area is taking information from the foot, this is taking information from the leg, this is taking from the trunk, and this is taking from neck. I'm just giving an example. Is that right? But here, fine touch is going here, crude touch is going here, crude touch. Right? Now, if you have closed eyes and someone touches crudely, are you sure exactly which areas of the body are touched and how much it is touched? You are not sure. But if someone touched with a fine needle, are you exactly sure where you are being touched? Why? Because fine needle activates the action potential, send the action potential through dorsal column. And the layers are maintained so well that when information reaches to the cerebral cortex, it can exactly localize where someone has touched. This is called spatial orientation, line and lane principle. Is that right? Opposite to that, if someone is crudely touching, you may not be knowing exactly where someone is touching. You may be saying someone touching your hand, but if someone touched with a needle, you know exactly. Is that right? Am I clear? So line and lane principle is better followed by the dorsal column system and poorly followed by anterolateral system. That is why pain and temperature is not so well localized as is the localization of fine touch. Someone touches with the needle, you know exactly where someone has touched. But if there is some pain going on, you may say there is pain here, maybe little here, maybe little there. You cannot exactly pinpoint, especially when pain is dull. Is that right? So now you know already that ascending tracts can be classified into dorsal tracts and anterolateral tract. Dorsal tracts are advanced tracts, anterolateral are primitive tract. Primitive dorsal tracts are highly myelinated, anterolateral are moderately myelinated. Dorsal tracts are high velocity, and anterolateral ascending tracts are with less velocity. Dorsal tracts give better localization, gradations of the sensations. Anterolateral system give poor localization and poor gradations of sensations. Dorsal column has more modern sensations like proprioception, fine touch, vibration, position. Anterolateral system has primitive sensations. Is that right? If this basic concept is clear, then I start dealing with the individual tracts. Anyone who is not clear about this thing? Everyone is clear? Okay. Now let's start with it. What do you think? We should do the ascending tracts or dorsal column system first or anterolateral system first? I think we do expressway first, the modern system, right? We'll see that how the sensations, from where the sensations are coming to the dorsal system and how they are going to the higher center, right? So I will draw here one spinal cord. And I have to draw basically at least two sections of spinal cord. in diagram, right? Now, these are two sections of spinal cord I have shown you. Of course, spinal cord is going down. Let's suppose this spinal cord area is receiving the sensations from lower limb and this area is receiving the sensations from upper limb, right? Now, how the sensations come for dorsal column system? Dorsal column system is basically for sense of fine touch, vibration, position, proprioception, 2-point discrimination. Is that right? Now, these sensations which are going to dorsal column system, we should start from the receptor. We should start our concept from receptor. So, which are the receptors which take up such fine sensations? Number one, of course, there should be sensory nerves, right? But at the end of the sensory neurons, receptors generate the activity. There are Meissner's receptors. Have you heard of them? Receptors. And then there are Pacinian receptors. Let's suppose this is Meissner's receptors and this is Pacinian receptors. I will have a full lecture on receptors, so I will not go into detail of them right now. These are usually from the skin and subcutaneous tissue. They are taking fine touch and vibration, especially Pacinian. And then there are Golgi tendon organ and muscle spindles. Yeah, muscle spindles. This is muscle spindles. And then there are Golgi tendon organ, right? So all these sensations are going, do you think they will enter into central nervous system through ventral route or dorsal route?
Dorsal.
Of course, dorsal route, right? Thank God, at least that is clear. I must congratulate myself. Yeah. So this is the trunk, right? I must make here also dorsal. Now all these sensations which are fine touch, pressures, vibrations and proprioception, all this we have to take up to the cerebral cortex. But we are starting from here, from sensory neurons, sensations are coming, sensory nerves. Now I just follow one of them. This is the cell body, dorsal horn, dorsal root ganglion is having the cell bodies of first order neuron. First order neuron means the neurons which are first in the chain of sensory system. So their cell bodies are in dorsal root ganglion. And actually from here, their peripheral process is going to the receptors. And their central process is going to the central nervous system. There it divides into lateral root, we'll talk about later, and it also divides into medial root. From the medial root, fibers go medially into which area? Dorsal column. And these fibers start going upward, right? Now what happens? On the way, more and more fibers are added. Is that right? This is, suppose, C7 level, and this is, let us suppose, L1 level. So L1 is receiving, this level is receiving the fibers from the lower limb. Is that right? And here it is receiving the fibers from upper limb. Now, sensations from the lower limb, they are going through this area upward. Is that right? From the dorsal column on the medial side. Now, as it is going in the spinal cord, let me draw a spinal cord here. This is the spinal cord, this is its central area. Sensations from the lower part of the body will be deposited, their fibers will be deposited medially. The fibers which are coming from upper part of the body, they are deposited laterally. Are you understanding? Within the dorsal column, sensations from the foot will be most medial. Then from the calf will add to that here. So what we see, here are the sensations going from the foot, then just lateral to that sensation from the calf, then sensations from the thigh, then sensation from the lower abdomen, then sensation from upper abdomen, then sensations from the upper limb. Because, why this is happening? Because sensations are being added. Is that right? Fibers are being added. Am I clear, Rodney? You are understanding it, right? So, you must know the spatial arrangement of dorsal column, first of all. Again, I will make it more clear. If this is the spinal cord, this is the center of spinal cord, fibers are coming, going like this. So, you have to tell me, now listen carefully, and of course in opposite side also fibers are coming and they are adding on lateral side or medial side? Lateral side. So in dorsal column system, the fibers which are more medially, they are from lower part of the body, and fibers which are more laterally, they are from upper part of the body. You may be thinking, why I am teaching it with such a stress? There are reasons. Because if you develop a tumor here, and this tumor disturbs the medial, lower limb sensations are lost. But if you develop a tumor this area and disturb the lateral fibers, then upper part of the body sensations will be lost. Am I clear? Is that right? Now, what really happens, that all the fibers which are coming from the lower limbs and then up to the T6, they are adding, they make a special bundle going upward. They make one very special bundle coming from the leg, and the fibers which are coming from the upper abdomen and thorax and from the upper limb, they are making another bundle but on the lateral side. Now, this medial bundle should have sensation from lower part of the body, and lateral bundle should have sensations from the upper part of the body. Is that right? This medial bundle is called fasciculus gracilis, and lateral bundle is called fasciculus cuneatus. You may get confused, right? The gracilis, which is from the legs, or cuneatus from the leg. How you remember them? No. Okay, one thing he says, gracilis muscle is in the leg, and of course then, but that will confuse. Maybe you think it's a motor system, but it is actually sensory. Why don't you remember in a more passionate way? Her legs are graceful. If her legs are graceful, which fasciculus should take these graceful fibers, which are taking sensations upward? Gracilis. Is that right? He knows it. So, fasciculus gracilis is taking sensations from the lower part of the body, graceful part of the body, right? And cuneatus is taken from the upper. Now in the spinal cord, if you add the fibers like this, look, this is dorsal column system, and it is having these 4 bundles. 2 on the right side of dorsal column, 2 on the left. You know it already that these are 2 fasciculus gracili and these are 2 fasciculus cuneatus. Gracili are from lower part of the body taking fine dorsal column sensations. Now onward, all sensations which come from in the dorsal column, I will call them dorsal column sensations, which are fine touch, vibration, position, 2-point discrimination and like. So dorsal column sensations from the lower part of the body are in gracilis, from upper part of the body are from the cuneatus. No problem up to this? Really clear? Now, if we make section of the lower part of spinal cord, it will have both columns or only one? One. But if you make section in upper part, both. You understand why? Your cortex is working. Right? Really, you know it, that if you make a section in lower part of spinal cord, then the only bundle from the lower part has been formed. But if you're making section at the upper part of the spinal cord, you will find not only fasciculus gracilis is there, but there's also lateral to that, there's addition of fasciculus cuneatus. Is that right? Now, it means that if you stimulate with an electrode, if you stimulate here, patient will feel sensations there in the foot. If you stimulate here, it is in upper part. If you stimulate here, patient will feel sensations in the hand. So it means all the sensations are arranged in these fibers, or fibers are arranged in a very topographical fashion. Topo, this is the line and lane principle. It is not possible that if foot sensations are here, suddenly here become abdomen and then sensations of leg come. No. They have to be in a special line and lane principle. So we can say this is foot sensations, this is, you can say, leg sensations, abdomen sensations, and here are what sensations? Arm sensation, right? So this is the principle, and foot is with the foot. Is it clear? What is the principle then? If there is some tumor in the middle of the vertebral column, you lose the sensations in both foot. But if tumors start from the lateral side, eating up the dorsal column, you will lose sensation in upper part. Am I clear? So this is topographical arrangement of these fibers. And again, as you see, that fibers are added from this side. So up to now, what are these? These are the central processes of first order neuron which is present in dorsal root ganglion. These are the peripheral processes, and this is the central processes. Right? Now, as these fibers are going up, where they will reach eventually? Now, I will make more simple diagram again. I hope you understand this diagram. This is lower section, this is upper section. Fibers come. First order neuron cell body present in dorsal root ganglion. Peripheral process connected with the receptors. Central process enters into spinal cord from the dorsal root. As soon as it enters into spinal cord, it goes make a medial division, and this medial division fibers go into dorsal column and start ascending through the dorsal column. Medial fiber has fasciculus, gracilis, which are coming from lower part of the body, and lateral fiber going as fasciculus cuneatus, which is coming from the upper part of the body. Same is here also, because sensations are coming bilaterally, right? And this is fasciculus gracilis of left side, and this is fasciculus cuneatus of left side. Am I clear? The very important thing you have to note it, now sensations are going upward, right part of the body, sensations are going upward through the right half of the spinal cord. And left side of the sensations are going upward through the left half of the spinal cord. So we say dorsal column sensations are moving uncrossed. They have not crossed. So they enter from this side, they enter from this side, they come in spinal cord, and they move upward without crossing in the spinal cord. Throughout the spinal cord, they are moving upward ipsilaterally. They are moving upward ipsilaterally, mean right dorsal column has sensation from right half of the body, and left dorsal column has sensation from the left half of the body. Am I clear? And actually, how many bundles it is making? 4 bundles. Is that right? Now, we go to the upper level. I will draw first. Above the spinal cord, what is there? Medulla. Medulla oblongata. Is that right? Now let me draw it here. That let's suppose this was your spinal cord. Is that right? And here is medulla. This is anterior aspect of medulla. I make a section of medulla. What is this? Pyramid, pyramid. You know, there are things like this there. Right? And what is this? Olive and olive. And okay, so what I do that I make it like this. From here there are some special connection going to cerebellum. What is this called? This bundle of fibers connecting the medulla with the cerebellum. Is that right? This is medulla, frontal view, and I have made a section. I will not show you the all structure of medulla. I will just show those structures which are relevant with our present discussion. And this is inferior cerebral peduncle. It is inferior cerebral peduncle which connect the medulla with the cerebellum. Which connect the medulla with the cerebellum. Is that right? Now, here's a very special nucleus for graceful legs, and the one here also for the graceful legs, right? And there is some lateral nucleus also. Nucleus means there's some piece of gray matter. When I say there's a nucleus present here, it means there's a collection of cell bodies. Is that right? In the brain stem, collections of cell body are called nuclei. Now, already you knew that, okay, I will draw it like this. Yes, what was this coming up? Fasciculus? Connected here. Is that right? Then what is coming from here? Yes, please. Gracilis from which part? Clear? Claro? And of course, I will only show in the upper part. What is this going up? Fasciculus? Yes. Cuneatus of right side. And what is this? Yes, please. Fasciculus? Cuneatus of the left side. Clear? Now, they had cell body in dorsal root ganglion. And what were these fibers? Fibers from the first order neuron. And their central process is making fasciculus, gracilis and cuneatus. These fibers terminate at these four nuclei. These two central nuclei, right, these are called nucleus gracilis, which receive the fibers of fasciculus gracilis. And outside that, there is nucleus cuneatus, which is receiving the fibers from fasciculus cuneatus. Am I clear? Now, it means these fibers will terminate here. These fibers will reach here and terminate here. Now, let me show you more clearly. These are two gracilis nucleus and these are two, yes, cuneate nucleus. I will make now with the same color that this is the input, and of course I must draw, what is this? Midline, right? And you must be knowing, hurry, what is this? Fiber ending up here? Gracilis, and what is this? Cuneatus. And fasciculus, gracilis and cuneatus. Now, actually these nuclei have cell bodies. Actually these are the neurons. They have many neurons inside, isn't it? Cell bodies they have. Now what will happen? When these ascending tracts will stimulate these nuclei, then information, these nuclei will be the next neurons on the side. So these cell bodies are called second order neurons. Cell bodies which are present in nucleus cuneatus and in the nucleus gracilis, those cell bodies are the cell bodies of second order neurons. Their first order neurons have terminated. They are too tired, they have taken the information so high. They give it to the next man. Now, what really happens, second order neurons usually cross, right? So, cell axons from these, they move to this side. And now they are going upward. And axons from this side, and they are also moving upward. So what is happening? That cell bodies which are present in left gracilis nucleus and left cuneatus nucleus, their axons cross the midline and come to the right side. And cell bodies which are having, or you can say from the right gracilis nucleus and right cuneatus nucleus, the axons emerge out and they cross to the opposite side. Is that right? And after the crossing, these fibers are going upward. and making a very special type of another ascending system. Is that right? Am I clear? Now these fibers which cross, these are called internal arcuate fibers. They arc within the medulla. What are they called? Internal arcuate fibers. So from where the internal arcuate fibers are coming? They're coming from nucleus, gracilis and cuneatus, and they're arcing towards the contralateral side. Am I clear? After that, once they cross, they go upward. Is that right? These two bundles which are going upward, is that right? Now, of course, left bundle of axon is having information from right side of the body, and left bundle of the axon has information from the, so right bundle of the axons have information from the left side of the body. Is that right? What this group of neurons are called? Anyone raise your hand? I'm about to be impressed by someone. This group of neurons which are taking the information after crossing. What I mean by internal arcuate fiber make a bundle which is going upward at a higher level. Is that right? What are these bundles called? Yes, please. No. Yes, anyone? They're nerves. Nerves are, my friend, outside the central nervous system. Yeah? Oh my God, these are not neurons. These are only neurons, axons. They are not third. These fibers are taking the information to the third order. I will tell you where is the third order. Right? But what are these? All of you have heard of it. Have you heard of medial lemniscus system? Yes. This is what this is. This is right medial lemniscus and this is the left medial lemniscus. I should write it, okay? Medial lemniscus. That is why this system is called as a whole, this ascending system is called by modern neurologists dorsal column medial lemniscal system. They call this whole system of fasciculus cuneatus and gracilis, nucleus cuneatus and gracilis, and then arcuate fibers, and then fibers going upward. Whole of the system they call it dorsal column medial lemniscal system. And of course, you must be knowing which fibers are, which information is coming there. Primitive information or modern information? Modern. Is that right? It means there must be some other leminisci. That is why it is called medial. There must be something lateral also. We'll talk about that later. Is that right? Now, what is really meant by the word leminiscus? Okay. Suppose these are a lot of fibers. There are nerve fibers here, right? If it is a circular bundle, I'm talking about nomenclature. If lot of axons making a circular bundle, this is called fasciculus. And if they make a flattened bundle like this, then they are called lemniscus. They are called lemniscus. So these should be shown not as circular, they should be shown as flattened. Now you understand it? So, any question up to this? There's no question? So you have reached from the spinal cord up to medulla and you have gone little above. And you know, dorsal column system has major decussation, major sensory crossing. Where? In medulla. As internal arcuate fiber in lower part of medulla. Is that right? Now, once you understand it, let's make it in this diagram. I will make here medulla and show you that thing which happened there. Pyramid, pyramid, olive, olive. Yeah, what was it? Inferior cerebral peduncle. Is that right? This is lower part of medulla. And what were here? Yes, please. Nucleus, gracilis, and cuneatus. Is that right? And if I show you these fibers, what are these fibers coming? Right fasciculus gracilis and right fasciculus cuneatus and left fasciculus, yes please, gracilis and left fasciculus cuneatus. And this is where central processes of first order neurons terminate, and from these cell bodies of these nuclei, what will happen? Axons of the second order neurons will start. And then we will show it that suppose here was medial lemniscus and here was medial lemniscus. So from where it is medial lemniscus is coming? Okay, I'll make it different color so you really understand. These fibers, right, they cross. What they do? They do crossing. These fiber cross, and these fiber also cross. After the crossing, they go upward. They are going upward as, yes please, medial lemniscus. Now you understand the relationship between dorsal column, how dorsal column at lower part of medulla convert into medial lemniscal system. You are really clear? I'm surprised. Of course, then where this lemniscal system will go? Above the medulla, what is there? I think these days there is pons. So medial lemniscal system will pass through pons. Then above the pons, what is there? Midbrain. So it will pass through the midbrain. What I mean by this thing, you make any section in the midbrain or pons or medulla, especially upper medulla, you will always find medial lemniscal system. But at lower medulla, you will find these crossing and nuclei. You are understanding? Do you need to memorize this information? Right? It's very simple. Now, okay, let's make pons here. Okay, this is pons, right? Information is going upward. This is pons. And above the pons, what should be there? What I'm drawing this? Yeah, this should be. I have drawn the cross section of midbrain. This is midbrain, and here above the medulla, there is, I have removed the other structures. So this is pons. So medulla, pons, what is this? Midbrain. And our system is going upward. It has to reach up to cerebral cortex, the top story, where you will become aware of your information. Is that right? Now, what is this moving upward? Medial? Yeah. What is moving upward? Medial lemniscal system. Of course, it will show up somewhere here in the midbrain. Is that right? Now, in the midbrain, when you will make a section of midbrain, you will find there's medial lemniscus there. Of course, don't forget to make that there is something called cerebral aqueduct, right? Anyway, now the next station where second order neurons will terminate and the third order neurons will take up the information, the next station is thalamus. Thalamus is another very large, you can say, piece of gray matter. It means thalamus has a lot of nuclei. Is that right? Now information will go to the thalamus. Let me draw the thalami here. There is one thalamus here and other thalamus here. And this is the lateral side of thalamus, and medially they are, okay, thalamus is something like this. Do you know that or not? This is the anterior part of thalamus and this is posterior part of thalamus. These two are lateral side of thalamus, and here they are meeting each other with the medial side of thalami, right? If you really want to know exactly how thalamus are placed, you can better understand if you see from the side. Spinal cord, medulla, pons midbrain, right? Here the thalamus is sitting there like this. Of course, one thalamus on the right side, another on the left side. Am I clear? Now, thalamus has many nuclei, and these will make connection with a very special nucleus. Is that right? I have rotated this thalamus like this, because this is the anterior side and that is the posterior side. Am I clear? Now, this is the side view. I will explain the thalamus. This is the right thalamus, right? Of course, on right side, if you see, this is which side of the thalamus? Lateral. And what is that side? Medial. Anterior, posterior, lateral and medial. Am I clear? Let me make the thalamus a little bit large. So see exactly. Actually, thalamus has special Y-shaped white matter which divides the thalamus into anterior, medial and lateral part. Multiple nuclei here. The group of nuclei together which are here, they are called dorsal group of nuclei, which are on this side, dorsal, and this group of nuclei should be ventral. Listen carefully. First of all, we divide the thalamus into anterior, and what is this? Medial, and whole, what is this? Lateral part of thalamus. Lateral part of thalamus is further divided into ventral thalamus and dorsal thalamus. Are you understanding? It's just like having a potato. Look, this is thalamus. This is, my nose is here. This is anterior part of thalamus, and what should be this? Posterior part. And if it is right thalamus, this should be? If it is right thalamus, this is lateral and this should be medial. Is that right? It is basically divided into anterior group, medial group and lateral group. So from this side you can see which one? Lateral group. Lateral group as dorsal group of nuclei and ventral. Is that right? Now, this group of nuclei is ventral. Out of this, there are 3 nuclei. This is ventro-anterior. Within the ventral group, it is anterior. Nose is here. Ventro-anterior. And what is this? It has 3 basically here. So what is this? Ventro-intermediate. And what is this? Ventro-posterior. Do you understand it? There are 3 nuclei within the thalamus. First, develop a whole concept. Thalamus has anterior group, medial group and lateral group. Lateral group has ventral and dorsal. In the ventral area, again there are 3. Ventro-anterior group, ventro-intermediate, ventro-posterior. Ventro-posterior has a big nucleus like this here, and one nucleus which is peeping from the back. There's a baby nucleus in the back. This mama nucleus is laterally and this baby nucleus is medially, just peeping like this. Is that right? Now, due to this reason, this mama nucleus, which is actually this was whole what? Ventro? Anterior. What was this ventro? Intermediate. This is ventro? Posterior. So mama with the baby is ventro? Posterior. But mama is more lateral and baby is little bit medial. So this is called ventro postero lateral. And this baby is called ventro postero medial. Am I clear? Now why I am going into such a detail? Because this mama nucleus, which is ventro postero lateral nucleus, it receives the most of the sensations from most of the body which is going upward. For example, touch, pain, temperature, vibration, position, all sensations come to this nucleus to rest. From here the third order start. And baby nucleus, it is concerned with taste, ice cream. Taste fibers come there. Head and neck fibers, sensations usually go to this baby nucleus, ventro postero medial. And rest of the body, all sensations are coming to Ventroposterolateral. If most of the sensation from the body are coming to ventroposterolateral nucleus, then of course medial lemnisci should reach to thalamus to connect where? Ventroposterolateral. So now I will make it here. This is a mama nucleus. This was anterior group, and then there was lateral group. I will just make here mama nucleus. What was that? Ventroposterolateral. Ventroposterolateral. VPL. Ventroposterolateral nucleus in the thalamus. Now you exactly understand, if in the book it is written that medial lemniscus goes to thalamus and it gets connected with ventroposterolateral, where the second order neurons of dorsal column medial lemniscal system terminate and third order neurons have to start. So what is this? These fibers are going up and eventually these are connected with, yes please, ventroposterolateral. And of course don't forget this nucleus belongs to thalamus. Second order neurons terminate there, right? Now the third order neurons have to start. Third order neurons belong to what? Ventroposterolateral nucleus. From there bundles of axons will bring the information up to top story. Before I really go into detail, I want to show you something very important. Actually, you know, internal capsule, you have heard the word internal capsule in central nervous system or not yet? You have not heard of it. Okay, no problem. I will tell you something. These are the thalami. So this is one thalamus and this is the other thalamus. Is that right? And on the side of the thalami, there is a special group of nucleus which are called lentiform nucleus. And here is caudate nucleus. Okay, caudate nucleus, which goes like this. It sits over thalamus. There is caudate nucleus. Now, actually this is the anterior side and this is the posterior side. I'm making a section of the central nervous system like this. When I'm making a cross section, there are thalami. Lateral to thalami, there are special type of what? Nucleus, which are called, this is also mass of gray matter. Is that right? Lateral to that. Outer to thalami. Because now we have come to cerebral hemisphere. Let me draw the cerebral hemisphere. You understand what I'm making? Or not clear? Yes. That from the brain stem at the top, now you are connected with the parietal lobe at the top and what is this? Temporal lobe below. Am I clear to everyone? In this diagram, thalami are like two potatoes there. On the sides of the potatoes, there are two eggs there. Is that right? Now, then here on these two potatoes, which are what? Thalami. Is that right? And what are these? Lentiform nuclei. There is a special type of nucleus sitting as if in the kitchen there are two potatoes and two eggs, and on the potato a rat is sitting. Rat, R-A-T, rat, or one side Mr. Rat, other side Mrs. Rat, whatever you want to. But a rat is sitting. I will tell you what is that rat. Let me make that rat blue. No, red. Dangerous. This is very comfortable. And then it is moving his head like this and tasting the cheese. Okay, this is the cheese, this is the egg. And it has also tail which turns, and this, he put his tail also under this. Of course, here also, it is sitting over here, its tail is under this, and, okay, make his eyes beautiful, and tasting from here. Is that right? You know what is this? This is a mass of gray matter. This is called caudate nucleus. What is this called? Have you heard of it somewhere? Caudate nucleus. You will hear about it. Caudate nucleus. Now, this is the space in between these two spaces. This is the area. Here you can imagine there is some salad there. What is this? Between the thalamus and lentiform nucleus. And caudate is making a circle like this. And what is this? These are white matter bundles. These are white matter bundles. This thing is called the whole internal capsule. Now you may be thinking why it is called internal capsule. Let me tell you. Actually, there was some white matter here also. You mean some white matter here also. And this was like a lens. And there was some white matter in between this and this, right? And this white matter is the salad here, right? Let me draw it. This is a white matter. Now, when doctors made a section here, they found there are two thalami. Then there is a lot of white matter. This is two gray matter. Okay, they thought there is some pieces of gray matter. In between these two gray matter, there is a fluid-filled cavity, which is third ventricle, if you remember. Then they found there is another gray matter which is laterally present, and this gray matter is like a lens, biconvex, convex from this side and this side. So they say this is lenticular nucleus. And they found there's a lot of white matter on one side and other side. So they say lenticular nucleus is surrounded by the capsule. This was inner capsule and that is outer capsule. So they called this structure, what was the name of the structure? Internal capsule. So what is internal capsule? It is a lot of white matter pressed together. Pressed together between the thalamus and the lentiform system. Am I clear? Is there any question up to this? Anyone who is sleeping is listening? At least listening. Now, this is internal capsule. Internal capsule has this area which is called posterior limb, and this area which is called anterior limb, right? For example, internal capsule I make like this. This is white matter and internal capsule on other side. Now this is anterior side and this is posterior side. This is posterior limb, anterior limb, and this bend is called genu. So internal capsule has many structure which I have shown you. There is posterior limb, anterior limb. Is that right? This is anterior side of the body. Am I clear? Now, third order nucleus fibers which are coming from which? This is posterior limb. Now, these fibers from which nucleus? Ventropostero, the mama nucleus. What was this? Ventropostero lateral nucleus. Is that right? These fibers from here went into internal capsule, and through the internal capsule they went up. So whole explanation was for this purpose, that from the ventroposterolateral nucleus, fibers move laterally into posterior limb of, yes, internal capsule. From there they are going up, and as soon as they are moving up, Now you can imagine the relationship of thalamus, and fibers moving like this, and from here they emerge upward. Is that right? When these fibers are going up, they come out of it and suddenly they fan out like this. They are going where? To cerebral cortex. What is these fibers are going where? Cerebral cortex. From the internal capsule, they radiate out like this, like a crown of a king. Corona radiata. Now you know from where the corona radiata springs out? From the internal capsule. Right? From posterior limb, right? These are the fibers. As a corona radiata, they go up. And eventually these fibers get connected with the cerebral cortex in the post-central gyrus, which is called which cerebral cortex? Sensory cortex. This is sensory cortex, of course. This is the medial side of the sensory cortex, then top of the sensory cortex and lateral side. Is that right? And eventually third order neurons, which were present in ventropostero lateral nucleus. The fibers came out through the internal capsule, they came into corona radiata, and eventually they got connected with the cerebral cortex in the post-central gyrus, which is sensory cortex. Let me show you from the side what is meant by the post-central gyrus. What is meant by the post-central gyrus? Okay, someone has beaten here. This is, I hope you understand it. Few here, right? Now you understand what it is? This frontal lobe, of course, and that is occipital temporal. Let me draw the sulci and gyri. These are the important sulci. Now, this is called, right now we'll discuss only this. This is the central sulcus. Behind it, this is the post-central gyrus. And this is the sensory cortex, which is on the lateral side and then also present on the medial side. We have made section here. That is why you find this thing and this thing. Am I clear? So this is sensory cortex, to which dorsal column, medial leminiscal system has eventually brought the modern sensations. Sense of position, sense of vibration, proprioception, fine touch, 2-point discrimination, and brought everything with high velocity, with big spatial orientation. So that sensory cortex can analyze this information, compare the present sensory information with the past information, and determine the quality of the sensory experience, as well as gradation of and localization of sensory experience, that is from which part of the body, what is the grade of suppose fine touch, right? How much area is affected, all detailed analysis is made by sensory cortex. Is there any question here? Right? There's no question. Now you will tell me what are the structures. First of all, what are the receptors here? Pacinian corpuscles? Meissner's corpuscles? Yes. Golgi tendon organs? Muscle spindles. That's good. And don't sound sleepy. Fibers come through motor system or sensory system? Thank you for remembering sensory system. Through ventral root, dorsal root? Dorsal root. First order neuron cell body is present in dorsal root ganglion. Peripheral process is connected with receptors. Central process goes through the dorsal root to the posterior part of the posterior gray horn. There its medial fibers go medially and backward, and from lower part of the body they make which fasciculus? And from upper part of the body they make fasciculus cuneatus. In lower medulla, fasciculus gracilis get connected with nucleus gracilis, and fasciculus cuneatus gets connected with at that very point, at that very point the central processes of first order neurons terminate and Second order neurons, axons start. They move forward and medially and cross. And this crossing is called internal arcuate fibers when they are crossing. Right? Fibers which are coming from both right gracilis and nucleus, cuneatus nucleus and the left, they cross, internal arcuate. After that, cross fiber move upward as what is this? Medial lemniscus, passing through upper part of medulla from the pons, from the midbrain, and medial lemniscus eventually get connected with which nucleus of thalamus? Ventroposterolateral. There, axons of the second order neurons terminate, and now information is further taken by third order neurons. Third order neurons make the fibers which come out from thalamus and pass through internal capsule. From which limb? Posterior limb of the internal capsule, and they move upward and they fan out as corona radiata, and eventually these fibers are connected with the sensory cerebral cortex, that is somatic sensory cerebral cortex, and this is post central gyrus. Any question up to this? Class dismissed. Today we are going to have a lecture now about the anterolateral ascending tract system. We have already discussed into detail what is the dorsal tract system, right? And now we will talk about the anterolateral tract system. For a little review, how do you compare anterolateral system with the dorsal system? Which one is the high velocity system? Dorsal system. Which is low velocity? Anterolateral. Which is heavily myelinated? Dorsal system. Less myelinated? Anterolateral system. Where there is better gradations of intensity and better, you can say, lamination of the fibers, that somatotopical arrangement of fiber is better from spinal cord up to the cortex connections. Dorsal system. Where variety of stimuli is more? Sensations which are going with a larger variety is anterolateral system. And vibration sense goes by anterolateral or dorsal? Pain and temperature goes by anterolateral, right? Sense of position goes by dorsal system, right? You remember, good. So let's now discuss into detail anterolateral system, right? In anterolateral system, basically we have two parts. As you know already, here are of course, what is this? Motor root, and here is sensory input, isn't it? With dorsal root, ganglion, right? Now, in the dorsal system, we have already discussed that these fibers in the dorsal system are fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, right? But in anterolateral system, the ascending tracts are in anterior column and lateral column. Is that right? First of all, we will talk about the pain and temperature pathway through anterolateral system. We will talk about pain and temperature pathway, right? I will go into detail of pain and temperature, not only just telling the ascending tracts related with that. Let's suppose this is your peripheral tissue from where pain or temperature is going to. For example, this is your skin. Is that right? So first of all, we must know what are the receptors, right? The receptors for pain are usually free nerve endings. These are free nerve endings, pains. And in the same way, there are free nerve endings plus special thermal receptors which take up the temperature sense. Is that right? Thermal receptors, which from where you take up the temperature sense. Now, when we talk about the pain pathway, is that right? When we talk about the pain pathway, actually pain pathway has distinctly two types of fibers, right? there are two types of fibers which are taking the information to the central nervous system, right? One pathway is called A delta pathway and other is C fiber pathway. Here I must clear your concepts that peripheral nerves are divided into A, B and C category according to their degree of myelination, right? Fibers in the A category are more myelinated and fiber in the C category are not myelinated. So it means pain is going by two systems, by A fibers. Again, A fibers are alpha, beta, gamma and delta. The A delta fibers which carry the fast pain, these fibers are lightly myelinated. They are not heavily myelinated, they are lightly myelinated. But C fibers are unmyelinated. Now, pain usually has two components. There are two types of pain, fast pain and slow pain, right? Fast pain, the classical example of fast pain is pinprick pain, right, or burning pain, right? And slow pain is, again, fast pain, the classical example of fast pain is, rather than burning, you must remember the example of pinprick. When sharp pin pricks you, you feel a pain which very rapidly goes. That is example of fast pain. Is that right? And that is carried by A delta fiber. Then there is throbbing pain, or there is gnawing pain, or there is burning pain, or there is dull diffuse pain. These pains are carried by C fiber. With the onset of painful event, fast pain is perceived by central nervous system within 0.1 second. Right? It's very rapidly goes to the central nervous system. So fast pain is perceived by the person within 0.1 second of the onset of the pain stimulus. But slow pain is felt after 1 hour or even after longer delay. Is that right? Another thing, the fast pain, okay, we'll talk about thermal later, but thermal pathway follows the same pathway as pain pathway. So I'll concentrate my lecture on the pain pathway, but actually as I will talk about how the pain pathway fibers enter in central nervous system and how they ascend, in the same fashion thermal pathways go, right? So whatever I'm talking about the pain pathway, anatomically thermal pathway or temperature fibers are going in the same anatomical system. Now let's divide it, that we have divided the pain into fast, yes, and this is slow. Is that right? And we have started comparing it. The fast pain is going by A delta fiber and slow pain is going by C fibers. Fast pain is like pinprick fibers, pinprick pain. Slow pain is like burning pain, or like you can say throbbing pain or dull pain. Then another difference, fast pain is usually from the skin, but slow pain may be from the skin or from deeper tissues, from viscera. Then another difference, fast pain is usually stimulated by, the stimulus for the fast pain is mechanical stimulus or thermal stimulus. Mechanical stimulus or thermal stimulus. But slow pain may be mechanical or thermal or even chemical stimulus. For example, acids, alkalis, strong, which damage the tissue. Is that right? So we can say that fast and slow pain both can be produced by the mechanical and thermal damage, but slow pain is specifically by the chemical damage to the body, by different chemical agents. Is that right? Then another thing, that why pain is there, pain sensation is produced when there is tissue damage, when there is injury to the tissue, that alerts you to the harmful effect. Is that right? So they have studied the chemical environment in injured tissue. So what are the chemical substances here which stimulate the nerve endings of the pain? Who can tell me what are the chemical substances in tissues? For example, my one hand is severely painful due to injury and other hand is not painful. Is that right? So if you really check the chemical composition of substances in the painful hand, there are some extra substances in painful area, of course some mediators of inflammation which are also causing pain. So who will tell me what are the different chemical substances in the area which can stimulate the pain-free nerve endings? Yeah. That may be the substances which may be there, that may be 5-hydroxytryptamine, that may be histamine, that may be bradykinin, yes, that may be bradykinin, and then that may be acids and potassium, that may be acids, and from injured cells, potassium is released when tissue is damaged. Cells are bags of potassium, they are very rich in potassium, so potassium is spilled out of the injured cells, right? That also irritate the free nerve endings for the pain. Is that right? So these are the chemical substances, right, which are produced at the site where pain is elicited, pain nerve endings are stimulated. Then there are two more substances which cannot directly produce the pain, but they can reduce the threshold for the pain, especially prostaglandins and substance P, which is a peptide. It is a neurotransmitter also in central nervous system. These two substances reduce the threshold for pain. Is that right? If these two substances are present in the tissue, then even very little concentration of these substances will produce the pain. But if these two substances are not there, then pain can be produced only by higher concentration of these substances. Am I clear? So they modify the threshold for the pain, and they really start the stimulation to the pain nerve endings, the free nerve endings. Once the action potentials go to central nervous system, what really happens? The first order neurons, right, they have their cell body in dorsal root ganglion. The first order neurons, they have their cell bodies in, yes, dorsal root ganglion. This thing is common, that in dorsal system also, the first order neurons had their cell bodies in dorsal root ganglion, and in anterolateral system also, first order neurons had their cell bodies in dorsal root ganglion. Once these fibers enter there, right, these fibers terminate in the gray horn, dorsal gray horn, right, especially an area called substantia gelatinosa. Let me show you here. This is a section of spinal cord. Now, suppose this is the fiber coming for the pain. This is C fiber and this is a delta fiber. Is that right? Now, the first order neurons in pain pathway, their central processes terminate as soon as they enter, right? Once they terminate here, then next order, or we can say second order neurons will start, and they will cross through the anterior commissure to the lateral white column, but on the contralateral side. The fibers will go to the contralateral side. Again, make a comparison. In dorsal system, right, in dorsal system, these were the central fibers which ascended upward. But in anterolateral system, or especially pain pathway and thermal pathway, what I'm saying, that first order neurons, right, they, as soon as they enter, right, they will just divide into, I will make it rather more clear, once they enter, they divide into ascending and descending branches, right, and these ascending and descending branches, right, so we can make it here, there are descending branches and there are ascending branches, here also ascending branches and descending branches. So what we really see, that when pain fibers enter, right, in the spinal cord, they make ascending and descending branches. In this way, because pain fibers are entering at every level, so ascending and descending branches are making a full track here. This is a local track in spinal cord. This is a local track in spinal cord. Is that right? It's not ascending or descending track. Are you understanding? Am I clear or not yet? You are understanding me? No, you are not understanding me. Okay, let me explain it again. No problem. Let's suppose here are 3 spinal cord sections. Right? Now, Now what really happens? Let me show you this by red color. When this comes, it makes some connections upward and it makes some connections downward. Then the fiber from lower level come. This also makes some connections upward and some connections downward. Then the fiber from this level, again ascending branch and descending branch. So a track is made within the spinal cord. It is like a local track. It's not taking the fibers all the up or down, right? And all the fibers which are coming with that pain sensations or temperature sensations, they are making a track, right? And actually, now these extensions, right, they are connected with the next order neuron, right? For example, if I say here is the second order neuron, right, which is going to take and cross it to the opposite side and then upward, is that right? So actually, this is a point where it is going like this, right? And of course, the new fibers which are coming, they are added on the medial side or lateral side? Medial side. What you really see here, as first order neurons enter into spinal cord, they give ascending branches and descending branches which contribute in the formation of tract. What is the name of this tract? This local tract is called, it is you can say dignified by a name, and the name of this tract is dorsolateral tract of LISSAURE. What you read it? Lissure. So let's call it tract of Lissure, right? So this is a tract of Lissure. It is made of ascending and descending branches of first order neurons, central processes as they enter into spinal cord. Is that right? Now then they are connected with the next order neurons. That is the second order neurons. It means that cell bodies of the second order neurons are present within the spinal cord. Is that right? Again, this is different from dorsal system. In dorsal system, you remember the fibers used to go medially and then go upward in dorsal system. And first order neurons, central process were going into up to nucleus, gracilis or cuneatus. Is that right? And in dorsal system, the cell bodies of second order neurons were present in nucleus, gracilis and cuneatus in dorsal system. But in anterolateral system, which we are talking about right now, the pain pathway and thermal pathway, second order neuron cell bodies are present within the spinal cord. Is that right? At the level of entry. Is that right? In the dorsal horn. Especially that area in which these are present, these areas are called, this area is called substantia gelatinosa. What is the name of that area? For example, okay, I'll make it this area green, where first order neurons ends on the second order neuron cell body. These areas called, what is this? Substantia gelatinosa. I will teach you later that at this point pain can be modified. There is a special theory, gating theory, which is related with this point. I will explain it later. Right. So how much we have learned up to now? Okay, let me make a new diagram. These are, now you must be understanding what are these? Spinal cord sections. Right? First order neurons, I should draw by which color? Blue is okay? So first order neurons coming here, making what? Yes, tract of Lissure. And First order neuron also coming here with the pain and temperature related and making tract of lesser, right? From here, second order neurons will start, right? And its fibers will cross to the opposite side, contralateral white, the column, right? From here also they will cross to the contralateral. But the fibers which are at lower level, as they are ascending upward, then upper fibers are added to the medial side, right? Now this tract which is being made here, it is going up to thalamus. So we call it spinothalamic tract. And because it is in the lateral column, we call it lateral spinothalamic tract. So lateral spinothalamic tract is concerned with pain and temperature. Lateral spinothalamic tract is concerned with pain and temperature. And if in this pathway, right, as this tract is going up into spinal cord, is it right? You can say peripheral part of the tract or outer part of the tract, right, has fibers from the lower part of the body, and medial side of the tract has fibers from the upper part of the body. Then remaining story is simple, but I would like at the same level mention the crude touch. You know, crude touch is also going through anterolateral system. Now this blue pathway and red pathway is showing pain and temperature. I've introduced one more, you can say, pathway which is for the crude touch or light touch, not fine touch, not vibration, not position, because these senses are taken by dorsal column. But there is a crude touch, is that right? Now this pathway, fibers also come from the dorsal root. They also become part of, as they go up and down, right? From their second order neurons also cross to the opposite side. Their second order neurons also cross to the opposite side. But these fibers which are touch pathway, crude touch pathway, they don't go to the lateral side, they go to the which white column? Anterior white column. Is that right? And this pathway which is going up through this area, this is anterior spinothalamic tract. What is this? Anterior spinothalamic tract. Is that right? Now you know there is lateral spinothalamic tract and there is anterior spinothalamic tract. Lateral spinothalamic tract is concerned with pain and temperature, and anterior spinothalamic tract is concerned with crude touch. Is that right? And these two pathways are going upward. Now let's go to the brain stem. As the system is going up, of course from spinal cord, these two tracts will go to now medulla, right? So we draw the medulla here. Pyramid, and then olive, and then inferior cerebellar, peduncle. This is the fourth ventricle. This is the section of medulla. Now, these medulla oblongata, of course, right? Now, here are the fibers which are making spinothalamic tract, and here are the fibers which are spinothalamic tract but anterior one, and that is lateral one. Actually, as we go upward, lateral and anterior fibers, lateral spinothalamic tract and anterior spinothalamic tract, they come together. They come together. I will make it easier diagram here, that this is your spinal cord, right? Here is your which pathway going up? Yes, lateral spinothalamic. And which pathway is going up here? Yes, ventral or anterior spinothalamic. Later on I will explain that another pathway is going from here up, and this is called, this was lateral spinothalamic, this was anterior spinothalamic. Another pathway is moving in between them, and this is called spinotectal pathway. Spinotectal spinotectal. Right? It is going up to the midbrain. Midbrain has a posterior portion which is called tectum. Midbrain has a posterior portion which is called tectum. So this spinotectal pathway is going to the tectum. Actually, this spinotectal pathway controls the spinovisual responses. For example, in lower part of the body, you have some stimulus and you have to look at that. You move your eyeballs there. That is spinovisual reflex. Is that right? So information from spinal cord, when it is going up, it goes to the midbrain in the tectum, right? I will draw it here exactly from the side. Tectum is here. This is midbrain, and midbrain has superior colliculus and inferior colliculus. Do you know that on the back of the midbrain there are swellings? This is upper swelling and this is the lower swelling. This is front of the midbrain, this is the back of the midbrain. The upper swelling is called superior colliculus. Upper swelling is called superior colliculus. And lower swelling is called inferior colliculus. Both of them together are called tectum. So basically, spinotectal pathway is going to the tectum. Is that right? Different stimuli from the body taking to the tectum so that your visual responses can be adjusted according to the stimulus coming from the body. It's very natural. If someone bites here, you suddenly look. Or you are just walking and let's suppose you put your naked foot on some sharp thing. Not only you take the reflexly your foot away, but you look there as well. This looking there is spinotectal reflex. Is that right? Now what I really wanted to tell that these three pathways, lateral spinothalamic, which is pain and temperature pathway, anterior spinothalamic, which is crude touch pathway, and spinotectal pathway, which is basically for spinovisual reflexes. Is that right? When these pathways go up to medulla, they fuse together. Why I am trying to teach all of them? Because in the medulla, at the level of medulla, they fuse together. And when all three of them fuse together, right? When all three of them are fused together, right? And these all fibers then run anatomically as single bundle, right? Now all these fibers are anatomically running as single bundle from medulla upward. Is that right? This is called, yes, who will tell me the name of this bundle? Which is produced due to the fusion of lateral spinothalamic tract, tectospinal tract, and anterior spinothalamic tract, and this bundle is fused within medulla and then moves upward up to thalamus. It passes through upper medulla, then through pons, and then through midbrain. Eventually it reaches thalamus. What is the name of this structure? This is called spinal lemniscus. You already know medial lemniscus. From previous lecture you knew medial lemniscus. Medial lemniscus was formed from dorsal column system, and spinal lemniscus is formed by anterolateral system. But exactly you know that how it is formed and where it is formed. It is formed by combination of three tracts. What are those tracts? Lateral spinothalamic for pain and temperature fibers, tectospinal tract for spinovisual reflexes, and anterior spinothalamic tract for crude touch. Is that right? All these fibers come together. Is that right? In the medulla, right? And now they are called spinal lemniscus. Is that right? Then what happens? Let's go to our original diagram. I will make a basic all landmarks which we passed time. In last lecture we discussed the main landmarks, that here is your, let's suppose, medulla. Here is your pons. And here must be your, yes, what is it? Midbrain. And at the top of the midbrain, you have to tell me, we studied these structures last time. What is this? Okay, thank God you remember this. What are these? Thalami, right? And this is which side of the thalamus? lateral side. And there was special mama nucleus here. What was this? Ventro-postero-lateral nucleus, right? And this was of course here also. Now ventro-postero-lateral nucleus. Now what you have to remember, that these fibers, as they are going upward in medulla, what are these fibers? Pain and temperature, spinothalamic tract, right? It is eventually reaching to ventro-postero-lateral nucleus. At the same time, these fibers, what were these fibers? Anterior spinothalamic. They also fuse with the same thing, and in the same way they also end up there. Is that right? But there was another group of fibers which were here and tectospinal. They go up to this level, but then they terminate into superior tectum. We'll talk about that later. Superior colliculus. Is that right? Now, this group from here up to here, this bundle of neuronal fiber all this bundle is called, yes please, which lemniscus? Spinal lemniscus. And can you clearly differentiate spinal lemniscus from medial lemniscus? You must be, because when we were talking medial lemniscus, that system was coming from dorsal column system. Is that right? Now, this is spinal lemniscus. Right? So we can say lateral spinothalamic tract as well as anterior spinothalamic tract, as it goes upward with the spinotectal tract, it makes a spinal lemniscus which extends from the medulla and through the pons, through the midbrain. Eventually spinothalamic tract, lateral spinothalamic tract fibers and anterior spinothalamic tract fibers, they get connected with which area? Yes, ventro-postero-lateral nucleus. Especially the fast pain fiber end up there, right? But the diffuse pain fiber or slow pain fibers, they have a little different distribution, right? How come? I make one thalamus now here, right? And what was this nucleus here? Ventro-postero-lateral. Actually, fast fibers are specially connected here. Is that right? The information which was coming through the A delta fiber, of course, A delta fiber are not reaching here, but information of the fast pain which was coming through the spinal cord, that gets connected here. But pain, suppose information from fast pain, and here I make, what is this? Slow pain. Is that right? Slow pain fibers, they are, some of them are connected there, but many of them are connected with the very, very special nuclei which are present in this internal lamina. These are the nuclei, and this is called internal thalamic lamina, this Y-shaped lamina. This is white matter in which there are pieces of grey matter. This is a white matter lamina into which there are grey matter pieces, and these are called intralaminar nuclei of thalamus. Yes, they are called intralaminar nuclei of thalamus. Actually, slow pain fibers specially go to intralaminar nuclei. Is that right? Plus, slow fibers on the way stimulate a very specialized structure which is called, yes, what is it called? Reticular formation. Slow pain intensely stimulate the reticular formation. Reticular formation is a mixture of mixed grey matter and white matter extend. Reticular formation extend throughout the brainstem. In the center of the brainstem, there is a mixture of white matter and grey matter which is called reticular formation, and slow pain fiber love to stimulate on the way. They love to stimulate reticular formation. Plus, slow pain fibers also give connection to laminar nuclei. Now, as a good doctor, you must wonder why slow pain fibers are going there, and is there any significance or not? There is a significance. What is the function of reticular formation? Who will tell me? What is the function of reticular formation? Consciousness. Look, reticular formation is the main switch of cerebral cortex. Let me tell you the function of reticular formation. At night when you are sleeping, if there is a dog barking, if you are really soundly sleeping, will you hear? No. Why you don't hear? Do you think your ears go out of order? No. When dog barking sound is going, ears are working well. Even auditory pathway takes the action potentials, but auditory cortex is not receptive. In the same way, let's suppose when you are sleeping and someone opens your eyes and shows you a photo of a very, very beautiful dog maybe, or whatever. So someone shows you, okay, something very beautiful photo, but you are truly speaking, do you think you will really see that? No. But do you think eyes are working? Yes. Optic nerve will also develop action potentials, but visual cortex is not responsive. Is that right? In the same way, if you are soundly sleeping and someone touch very lightly, do you feel? Why? Do you think skin receptors are not working or nerves are not working? Everything is working except cerebral cortex sensory area is not receptive. So what really happens in sleep? During the sleep, many areas in cerebral cortex has reduced their function, and you are not conscious of sounds, you may not be conscious of slight touch, you may not be conscious of some little bit visual stimuli. You are not aware of those things. But of course, stronger stimulants will wake you up. Is that right? Now, in the morning, how you wake up? In the morning, okay, let me tell you. First, why at night you are not responsive to stimuli? The reason is that all the day your reticular formation work. In a very simple words I am explaining. All the day your reticular formation work, and then it gets tired. And major function of reticular formation is, now this diagram must be drawn by all of you. This is your reticular formation, right? And here is your friendly, what was that? Thalamus. And what were these nuclei? Yes, please. Intralaminar nuclei. Is that right? Reticular formation is having heavy connection with the intralaminar nuclei, and through that it projects to the all cerebral cortex. This diagram should be printed in your mind. This reticular formation is on-off switch of the brain, main switch of the brain. All the day when it works, it gets tired. Its main duty is to, through the intralaminar nuclei of the thalamus, it should keep all the cerebral cortex active. When in the daytime, when it keep all the cerebral cortex active, frontal lobe can think and make voluntary movement. Parietal lobe can receive the sensory sensations. Temporal lobe can receive the auditory sensation. Occipital lobe can receive the visual sensations. Is that right? But when night falls, and if you are really tired and you have not taken too much stimulant, what happens? Reticular formation activity goes down. What really happens? Reticular formation all the day it has been working and its activity is going down. So its capability to stimulate the cerebral cortex has been reduced, and you feel sleepy, as it happens sometime in my lecture. All the day you are tired, and at night you come here, and if you have not taken any stimulant, and if I don't make any joke, right, your reticular formation is activity is going down. And what happens? All the cerebral cortex activity goes down. And if you really sleep, frontal cortex will not think in a voluntary fashion. You cannot make voluntary movement. Parietal cortex will not receive the light touch and other sensations. Temporal cortex will not hear. and visual cortex will not see. All the night when it recovers during the sleep, and again it starts firing. And in the morning when it has significantly recovered, a little stimulus will wake it up. And all the cerebral cortex become active, and you wake up. This concept is clear? So it means that basically function of the reticular formation is many function. I'm just talking about one function. One of the main function of reticular formation is it acts as main switch of the cerebral cortex or main regulator of the cerebral cortex activity. Is that right? Now, all the ascending pathways, this is a very important principle, all the ascending pathways which are going down, they give collaterals to the reticular formation. So that all sensory information which is going down upward, all the sensory information which is going upward, it has some collaterals connections, by the way connections to reticular formation, so that sensations are going up by their own route, but on the way they stimulate the reticular formation so that it stimulates the cerebral cortex, and you should be able to interpret and respond properly to the stimuli. Am I clear? For example, in morning, if you are not waking up, someone put a water on you, lot of action potentials go up and stimulate the reticular formation and you wake up. Is that right? Am I clear? Or same thing happens with painful stimuli. If there is strong painful stimulus, especially by the slow fibers, that is connected to the reticular formation, it keep on irritating, and if you have severe pain, can you sleep? You cannot. What it is doing, it is keeping the central nervous system on and active so that you can treat or eliminate the source of pain. How beautifully our system is really designed, right? So all the ascending pathways actually stimulate the reticular formation, but very heavy stimulation comes from the pain pathways. Am I clear? So this was the purpose of stimulating the reticular formation, so that it acts through the intralaminar nuclei, it stimulates whole the cortex. At the same time, diffuse pain directly goes to intralaminar nuclei, again to further stimulate the cortex. So this pathway, through ventroposterolateral nucleus, this will go to the cortex and tell you the quality of the pain, nature of the pain, intensity of the pain. But these pathways, direct to intralaminar and through the reticular formation and intralaminar, keep generally alert to you. Is that right? Am I clear to everyone? Then let's take the pain pathway further. I will explain what these structures I am drawing. Of course, this is parietal lobe, isn't it? Parietal lobe. Here it is temporal lobe and temporal lobe. Am I clear? You have made a section here. So this is parietal lobe and temporal lobe. Temporal lobe is actually like that. Is that right? Then this special area is called insula. Insula. It has nothing to do with the insulin. Insula. Is that right? Now pain pathways, when they reach here, of course they have to pass, like other things, through the internal capsule. Is that right? So pain pathways and temperature pathways, they pass through the, from ventroposterolateral nucleus, they go to the, what is this thing? Internal capsule, posterior limb. From there they fan out. Right, and they are going to post central gyrus, right? This is the sensory area. By the dorsal column LEMINISCAL system, the same area was receiving proprioception, fine touch, vibration, 2-point discrimination. But through anterolateral system, it is receiving pain and temperature and crude touch also. Am I clear? No problem in understanding this? Sure? Okay. Actually, when pain connections reach up to postcentral gyrus, right? Postcentral gyrus does high level interpretation and analysis of the information. It will tell you pain is coming from which area. It will tell you especially fast pain is well localized and slow pain is poorly localized. Fast pain example is when you hit hammer on your finger, you exactly know where you have injured. But slow pain example is if you have pain in the osteoarthritis of the hip joint. But if you ask the patient where is the pain, he says somewhere here, not really clear. That is slow pain. Is that right? If you injure skin of the abdomen with a blade, you know exactly where is the pain. But if pain is in the viscera, can you exactly hear the pain? You feel dull and diffuse pain. If you ask the patient, tell with the finger, he say no, pain is here. You just say tell one finger, he say okay, it is like this. Do you get me? Because he really cannot pinpoint. There's a difference in fast pain and slow pain. Fast pain especially goes up to this area. That is why it is well localized. Its intensity of pain is well graded, right? And present pain is well compared with the past experiences. Is that right? Am I clear? But then there are very special connections, and these special connections I will draw this. This is a very special connection coming to a very special area. What is this area? This is called cingulate gyrus. What is it called? Cingulate gyrus. Cingulate gyrus. Is that right? Cingulate gyrus is concerned with emotions. So you know, pain is a stimulus which is usually having some emotional component. So emotional component to the pain is usually unpleasant. There are very few pains which are pleasurable, but most of the pains are painful. They are really pains are painful. I mean unpleasant. Actually every pain has some degree of emotional component. This is the emotional area, you know, it's weeping. This is emotional cortex. This is limbic cortex, emotional cortex. So pain fibers up at the top in the central nervous system must be connected with the emotional area. Is that right? This is which? Cingulate gyrus. Is that right? No question up to this? Right? That brings the emotional component to the pain. Then some fibers are specially connected with this area, especially slow pain fibers, with insular cortex. Insular cortex. This cortex is concerned with, yes, autonomic responses to pain. You know, with pain there may be tachycardia, there may be nausea, there may be vomiting, there may be sweating. Is that true or not? Those are autonomic responses to the pain. They are elicited by these connections of the pain. So how many connections at the top I told you? Number one is the major connections of the pain fibers. They are with the postcentral gyrus and they are concerned with the analysis of the pain, the localization of pain, graduation of the pain, quality of the pain, and present and past experiences and comparison and recognition of the pain. Is that right? But pain has emotional component. Connections are going to cingulate gyrus. Pain, severe pain may have autonomic responses. Connections are elicited by insular cortex. Am I clear? And very good student will never forget that slow pain, especially when fibers are going upward within the brain stem, they specially stimulate reticular formation, so all the brain is alert. Is that right? And at the same time, you'll remember that many pain fibers, especially slow fibers, are connected with the intralaminar nuclear, which also stimulate all the cerebral cortex. Do you really understand? Right? Now, I think pain is so important. Doctors are all their life dealing with the pain. So I would like to discuss a little more about pain and this pathway. Do you think this pathway, which is taking the sensations of pain, it's a painful pathway? Think again. Of course, it's not painful pathway until you get a hit over there. Is that right? Now, I will talk about few important things. First of all, I will talk about the gating theory, right? But before really I go into detail, I would like to revise. There's fast pain and there's slow pain. Fast pain is by A delta fibers which are lightly myelinated. Slow pain is by C fibers which are not myelinated. Then another thing, that pain has its chemical mediators, right? I told you like potassium or serotonin, 5-hydroxytryptamine or bradykinin or histamine. These are the chemical substances or acids which stimulate the pain. But prostaglandin, the substance P, can alter the what is that, threshold to the pain. Is that right? Then let me go into detail of fast and slow pain as it enters into spinal cord. Let's suppose this fiber is for the fast pain. Already you know that it will make tract of lesser, that we'll discuss, we have already discussed. And this fiber will get connected with the second order neuron, and that will make, what is that? Lateral spinothalamic tract. This is, let's suppose, slow fiber, C fiber. When it comes here, actually it goes through multiple connections. And then these connections, right? These connections make contribution there. Now, this pathway is neuron to neuron closely connected, so localization of pain is easy. But in case of C fibers, because they are bringing the slow pain or dull pain or aching pain, right, they are diffusely connected with many neurons. So when the fibers will be going up, the central nervous system cannot really analyze exactly from where the pain started. Could I make it clear? Why slow pain is diffuse and why fast pain is better localized, and why slow pain is poorly localized? Are you understanding it? You are not understanding. I will repeat it. Let's take an example. That this is a road, right? Here the second road start and here the third road start. If any car reaches at this point, you know it must have started from here. So you can localize any action potential reaching here, you know it is coming from here. Is that right? Now we talk about another pathway, and on the way it has multiple connections. Do you think, now this is A area, B area, C area, D area, E area, F area. Any stimulus reaches here, can you tell exactly from where it started? No. The simple diagram should tell you this is simple pathway of fast pain and this is slow pain. The fast pain, when pathway enters, right, few neurons converge on only few neurons. But here, few neurons converge on many neurons. And many neurons may be receiving the information from many areas. So do you think in the end, when this fiber will get connected with the top, they can really analyze from where the pain started? I should be impressed if people understand. Because every doctor knows fast pain is well localized, slow pain is poorly localized. But now you understand what's the reason, what's the difference. Is that right? Another thing. Actually, there is a theory called gating theory. There was some experience from centuries that if someone has pain, if you massage him, pain will increase or decrease? It will decrease. Or you little bit rub, pain may be even other part of the body, but you are rubbing here, pain will decrease. For example, someone has injury here, but you rub here, pain will decrease. Or acupuncture, stimulating certain points in the body, Chinese have discovered thousands of years back, pain decreases. Then there are certain creams which are called liniments. And these liniments, what they do, liniments. These creams are liniments. They actually irritate the skin a little bit. If you apply them, pain is decreased. Is that right? Then low frequency electrical stimulation to the skin, very little, that may decrease the pain. So doctors are thinking how these extra stimuli can decrease the pain. Right? Let me tell you exactly how the painful stimulus or pain can be reduced by these extra stimuli. Right? let's suppose this red pathway is concerned with the pain pathway. This area produces, of course, neurotransmitter. By the way, which neurotransmitter is produced from here? By the pain nerve endings to stimulate the next. Glutamate and substance P. In substantia gelatinosa, glutamate and substance P is produced by release by the nerve endings on the second order neurons to stimulate. Because there is a lot of research going on that if we can block or neutralize substances here, pain can be managed well. Anyway, so this is the fiber and this is the second order neuron, right? Now, this is how you can say this nerve ending coming from pain pathway fibers releasing the neurotransmitter and stimulating the second order neurons and sending the signals of the pain upward. What they have discovered now that other neurons, which is, for example, from dorsal column, fine touch, as these other neurons which are going upward, they give collaterals, and through them there are special, what are this? Connector neuron. What is that? Connector neuron. Let me make it. This was the pain pathway. This was the nerve ending which is stimulating this pathway. Here was which pathway? Some other sensation pathway going on. This sensation is not related with pain. But this pathway also has capability to stimulate these black connector neuron. If you produce too much action potential through this system, this will stimulate the connector neurons too much, and connector neurons release chemical substances or neurotransmitters which inhibit this activity. Is that right? That is why when pain pathway is working and you produce some other stimulation like massaging or caressing, I think, right, or acupuncture, or you can say special creams which irritate the skin, actually pain is reduced. That is truly reduced. But if you stop that activity, again pain pathway will become fully activated. Am I clear? Are you sure? So initially, to explain, doctors never knew these connections initially. So they just thought that probably there is a gate for pain here. And they say when we produce other stimulations, that gate of the pain is closed. When other stimulations are not there, gate for the pain is open. So they said, hold this theory, gating theory. What is this theory called? Gating theory. Now what is gating theory? Gating theory is that when you produce, when person has pain and you produce some other stimulations which are not painful stimuli, but other stimulations like massaging or like stimulating the skin in many different ways or acupuncture, those stimulations may reduce the pain. Is that right? Now you know the mechanism. Because the action potentials which are coming by other pathways, right, they stimulate the connector neurons, and connector neurons may produce inhibitory neurotransmitter so that pain pathway is inhibited. Is it really understood? Or I'm teaching myself? It's clear? Gavin? Sure. There is an analgesia system. Now let me tell you, what is analgesia system within our brain? You know, within our central nervous system, there are mechanisms to reduce the pain. Is that right? Let me tell you how. This must be third ventricle. These are your thalami, isn't it? And of course you know what is this, cerebral aqueduct, midbrain, pons, medulla, spinal cord. Is that right? Now, this diagram must be really clear because this is clinically relevant with you. Actually, they have seen that periventricular, this is ventricle, periventricular grey matter and periaqueductal grey matter and some other midline nuclei like nucleus raphe, all of them have very special neurons which are coming down. These are coming down. These are descending pathways. What are these? Descending pathways. And they came to know that these pathways can release some neurotransmitter here which will block the pain transmission or inhibit the pain transmission. It means there are brakes applied to the pain system from the top. Gating theory was saying that any pathway which is going from here to here, that may inhibit the pain. But this is descending analgesic system. And you know what they found here? What these neurons are releasing? They are releasing something like morphine. As morphine is a painkiller, that something like morphine is called enkephalins and endorphins. What are they called? Enkephalins and endorphins. So enkephalins and endorphins are released by the descending analgesic system and it reduces the pain significantly. Is that right? Pain is really not as simple that you get a stimulus and get a pain. Pain is a strong emotional component with it. Is that right? For example, you fall down by your own fault and you get injury here, you feel pain. But if someone slap here, pain will be less or more? More, with the big emotional component. Is that right? So actually pain is modified in many ways within the central nervous system and its intensity is unduly increased or its intensity is unduly decreased. Is that right? So its intensity can be decreased by these descending analgesic fibers which are coming from periventricular area, periaqueductal gray matter area and other midline nuclei from the brainstem. Is that right? And that can release here endorphins and enkephalins. If you have done something great, worthwhile, and during that you get injuries, I think pain will be less painful. This system is working happily. Is that right? But if someone really beat you and insult you, the pain will be less or more? The pain will be more painful, isn't it? And probably the system may not work well. Is that right? So what I'm talking about, that within the pain is a stimulus which is not so simple like touch. It has a heavy emotional component with it. Even touch may have emotional component, right? But pain always has a heavy emotional component and usually a negative one. Why it is so important to mention? Because you are going to manage the patients, right? And a patient who has pain and you don't explain the disease well and patient becomes too anxious, his pain will be more. When doctor is compassionate, when they say the doctor touches, half of the disease is reduced, it is really reduced. At least pain is reduced. Because emotional component, patient feel assured. When doctor has time to talk, he is compassionate, right? Even there's a cancer pain, that will be reduced to some extent. Patient's own endorphins will be there. So pain you have to learn at 3 levels. Number 1, pain transmission. Pain transmission. Number 2, pain perception. Number 3 level is pain modification. Rather modulation, the right word is modulation. Let me tell you. Pain transmission means that you talk about the source of pain, chemical substances producing pain, free nerve endings, type of the fibers, central connections and how they are connected. All this is pain transmission. Then pain perception, right? One occasion, by your own mistake, you get injury here. And at another occasion, someone slaps you and the same degree of injury is there. But first pain will be you will be more disturbed by first pain or by the second pain? By the second pain. Why? In both pains, transmission system was the same. But perception was altered at emotional level. For example, your friend is going under, he is suppose fallen in some tragic situation and you jump and bring him out and save his life and you get severe injury. But you really save the life of your friend. Do you think it would be very painful or less painful? Less painful. But if you are fighting for your life and someone is kicking you down into a dangerous hole, the pain will be too bad. Is that right? So whenever we talk about the pain, good doctor should know number 1, transmission of the pain, which, right? Number 2, perception of the pain. And number 3, modulation of the pain, because we need to modulate the pain. You can affect the pain by many ways. But 2 important things which I discussed, gating theory here and descending analgesic system there. Do you have any question related with the pain transmission? Yes? Do you have any question related with the pain transmission? No. And you have also, now you are very clear about the lateral spinothalamic tract as well as anterior spinothalamic tract. Is that right? Anterior spinothalamic tract is taking which sensation up? Yes, please. Crude touch. Lateral spinothalamic tract is taking which sensations up? Pain and temperature. Is that right? Both tracts meet with the tectospinal tract and medulla and make which lemniscus? Spinal lemniscus. Spinal lemniscus is specially connected at the top where? Ventroposterolateral nucleus of thalamus, right? From their pain fibers, from ventroposterolateral nucleus, they go upward, especially in postcentral gyrus. For which purpose? For analysis of the pain. And fibers also go to cingulate gyrus. For which purpose? Emotional reaction to pain. Fibers also go to insular cortex for autonomic reaction with the pain. Is that right? Then a very good student should know the slow pain pathways, especially as they are going upward, especially connected with reticular formation, which alerts all the central nervous system. Plus, slow pain pathways in the thalamus are heavily connected with which nuclei? Intralaminar nuclei. They also stimulate the all cerebral cortex so that you don't ignore the pain. You have to do something because your tissue is being destroyed. Is that right? So let's have a break. Right, so we were talking about the ascending tracts. Up to now, we have discussed the dorsal column lemniscal system and anterolateral system, right? Actually, dorsal column lemniscal system and anterolateral system, both of them are connecting the sensations entering into spinal cord with the thalamus and eventually to the cerebral cortex. Because all of them are taking sensations up to the cerebral cortex, so sensations passing through dorsal column system and through the anterolateral system, they reach to your conscious level. Is that right? Any information which goes to cerebral cortex will be reaching to your conscious level. But actually, there is a lot more sensory information which has to be delivered to the cerebellum, right? Especially about the position of the joints, tension in the ligaments, muscles, joint capsules, tension within the muscles, right? All this information from the locomotor system must go very, very rapidly to the cerebellum also, so that cerebellum can plan the movements and posture appropriately. Is that right? Now, those pathways which take the information from the spinal cord, right? Those pathways which take the information from the spinal cord up to the cerebellum, those pathways are called spinocerebellar pathway. What are they called? Spinocerebellar pathway, right? The important point about those pathways is that they are connected with ipsilateral cerebellum. What I mean, that information from right half of the body will be directly or indirectly reaching to the right cerebellum. Is that right? So information from the spinal cord which is going to the cerebellum is directly or indirectly going to the ipsilateral cerebellum. But you have to remember that information through the dorsal column lemniscal system and information through anterolateral system, that is connected with the contralateral cerebrum, right? So now let's discuss into detail spinocerebellar pathways. Let's suppose that here is your spinal cord, and again actually there are two main spinocerebellar pathway. One spinocerebellar pathway which I am going to show you now is called dorsal spinocerebellar pathway. The information which is coming is from Golgi tendon organs, from muscle spindles, and from pressure receptors, right? And this information, right, these fibers turn medially Okay, these fibers rather in dorsal horn they terminate, and from their second order neurons move ipsilaterally on the right white column, right, or you can say lateral column. Once they come into lateral column, from here the information will ascend upward. Is that right? And from contralateral side also, right, first order neurons will terminate at the gray horn at the entrance, and from here second order neurons give connections which are going to the lateral horn and then going upward, right? Now these cell bodies, they are making a nucleus throughout in the spinal cord. What I mean by this, that if I draw spinal cord like this, then these, because at every point through the spinal nerves, information is coming, so these are the cell bodies and they are present bilaterally and they are making a vertical nucleus. This vertical nucleus is called dorsolateral nucleus of, yes, who knows, Clark, or simply called it Clark's nucleus. So actually we say that for spinocerebellar pathway, this is going to be posterior spinocerebellar pathway, right? So in fibers, first order neurons have their cell bodies in dorsal root ganglion, their central connections enter into dorsal gray horn, from there they terminate on which nucleus? Clark's nucleus. From there second order neurons cell bodies give the axons which move ipsilateral to the lateral white column, and from there they move straight upward. Is that clear to everyone? Now let's see what happens up. Here is, what is this? Medulla. Here is pons, and here is midbrains. And what is here? Cerebellum. Is that right? Now one point which is very important to understand, these are special white bundles which are connecting the brainstem with the cerebellum, and medulla is connected to the cerebellum through which, what is this connection called? Inferior cerebral peduncle. What is it called? Inferior cerebral peduncle. Pons is connected to the cerebellum through middle cerebral peduncle, and midbrain is connected to the cerebellum through superior cerebral peduncle. Am I clear? Right? In a side view, if I want to show, it will be like this: brainstem, pons, medulla, and spinal cord, and here is cerebellum. So this must be superior cerebral peduncle. What is this? Middle cerebral peduncle and inferior cerebral peduncle. What are cerebral peduncles? These are bundles of white matter which connect the brainstem with the cerebellum. Am I clear? Now, thank God this pathway is so simple that these fibers will go upward, and through inferior cerebral peduncle they will be connected with the cerebellar cortex. That's it. And because it is on the posterior side of the lateral white column, so this is called posterior or dorsal spinocerebellar pathway. What is this? Posterior or dorsal spinocerebellar tract. Is that right? First order neurons are where? In the dorsal root ganglion, first order neurons. Especially they are present from C8 in the spinal cord. These are the dorsal root ganglion, right? Like this. Now it starts from C8 up to S3. All these fibers are entering in, right? But Clark's nucleus, the Clark's nucleus that extend from C8 to L3. Clark nucleus extend from C8 to L3, lumbar 3. It does not go at lower lumbar and sacral level. So all these fibers which are going to the Clark nucleus, you are understanding it, right? Lower fibers have to ascend upward. Clark nucleus does not, it extend from C8 up to lumbar 2 or 3 level. But the fibers which are entering for dorsal column, they are entering from dorsal root ganglia of C8 to not L3 but L4, L5, S1, S2, S3. So fibers which are entering through lower level where Clark's nucleus is not there, fibers ascend upward and get connected with the Clark nucleus. Then from the Clark nucleus, fibers start going upward and then eventually to cerebellum. Am I really clear? No problem into this? Right? So you see that right side of the body is connected with the right cerebellum and left side of the body is connected with the left cerebellum. This is called dorsal spinocerebellar tract. Right? Now, actually there is a very interesting pathway but at higher level. The dorsal root ganglion give fibers which come into, okay, at a higher, suppose it started from here, C8. Is that right? And superior to that, still many fibers are entering. Dorsal root ganglia are there, C7, C6, C5. You are understanding it? All those fibers also enter, right? They pass through a similar pathway. And what was this nucleus? Clark's. Is that right? But here there is another extra nucleus in which especially from upper limb information is coming. Clark nucleus is receiving the information from lower part of the body, right, from the trunk and the lower limbs. Is that right? But this nucleus is receiving information from upper. And then these fibers also give fibers and they go upward with this. Now, this is Clark's nucleus. This is given a very different name. This is called accessory cuneate nucleus. So don't confuse accessory cuneate nucleus with the nucleus cuneatus, because nucleus cuneatus was in the medulla somewhere here. You remember? Nucleus cuneatus and gracilis. These are gracilis, cuneatus, cuneatus. And you remember they were making which fibers? Internal arcuate fiber, and then they were going upward as medial leminiscal. And there's no fun in telling that their fibers were coming from fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, right? Because actually this nucleus was extending up to the original cuneate, and then fibers were arcing like this. So somehow doctors were surprised. They thought probably these fibers and these fibers are related. Later on they discovered functionally they are not related. These are dorsal column leminiscal system and this is spinocerebellar system. Is that right? This special spinocerebellar system coming from the upper limb and neck, right? This is called cuneocerebellar pathway. Cuneocerebellar pathway. So to remember it easy in your mind, you can say cuneocerebellar pathway is the counterpart of dorsal spinocerebellar pathway, but from the upper limbs. Is that clear? In dorsal spinocerebellar pathway, the nucleus is Clark. In cuneocerebellar pathway, nucleus is accessory nucleus of cuneate system. In dorsal spinocerebellar pathway, this is the right, information is coming from lower limbs and trunk. But in cuneocerebellar pathway, information is coming from upper limbs or arms. Don't say upper arms. Is that right? Am I clear? Right. If these are clear, I will tell you another pathway. That is very different. Very interesting. That I should call that naughty pathway. You see, there is really very naughty and jumps around. There is another pathway which are coming, fibers are coming from, again, from Golgi tendon organs, coming from muscle, spindles, and coming from pressure receptors, right? And these fibers enter and end up into, on the second order neurons within the spinal cord, right? End up within the spinal cord. From here, these fibers move, okay, they move contralaterally and move upward. Now, and from opposite side also fiber come here, they are also connected, what? contralaterally, and from here they are going up. Now these pathways are actually making anterior spinocerebellar pathway because they are anterior to those red system. Is that right? Now the special thing is anterior spinocerebellar pathway, the second order neurons cross, but actually they are supposed to be connected on the same side. So what they will do, after the crossing, they are naughty, they were not supposed to cross, but they did the crossing because information from the left side must go to the left cerebellum, but here it has crossed to the right. Information from the right spinal cord, the right side of the body, must go to the right cerebellum, but again it is crossed. After having crossed, they go really very much up. They don't enter into inferior cerebellar peduncle, they don't enter into middle cerebellar peduncle. They enter into superior cerebellar peduncles. Through that they go to cerebellum. Then from there they again turn back, and behind that they come to this side, they recross. Basic principle is same. Same side of the body with the same cerebellum. Is that right? Because they wrongly crossed down, so they have to recross at the top. Is it really difficult to understand? Right? Now, so this pathway is called, which pathway? Ventral spinocerebellar pathway, which is the crossed pathway. But it recrosses within the cerebellum. Is that right? Or we call it anterior spinocerebellar pathway. Okay, all these pathways are really learned well. Let's do a practice now. Alright? Listen. Attention please. Now let's suppose I'm the spinal cord. I will by my hands, I will show you there are some components of dorsal leminiscal system, some components of anterolateral system, and some component of spinocerebellar, and you have to recognize. Fibers are coming in the spinal cord. They don't terminate there. They go backward through the dorsal column, they start moving upward. They will terminate in some two nuclei. From there they will cross, and then they will go up into thalamus, and then eventually to the cerebral cortex. What was this pathway? Dorsal leminiscal system. But you have to tell me the components now. Fibers entering through dorsal root ganglion, moving backward from lower part of the body into which fasciculus they are going up? Fasciculus gracilis, and from upper part of the body they will go up through fasciculus cuneatus. Then nuclei in the lower medulla. Which nuclei in the middle? Gracilis. On the sides? Cuneate. What are these fibers? Internal arcuate. What are these? Medial lemniscus. This go up. What is this connected to? Which part of the thalamus? Ventroposterolateral. Right? Once they are connected to ventroposterolateral, they pass through which capsule? Internal capsule. And then they fan out and connected to cerebral cortex. Precentral, postcentral. Postcentral gyrus. Clear? Now we recognize another system. Fibers enter, terminate at the level. Right? While termination, ascending and descending branches. Root tract is being made. Lesser. And then second order neurons cross to the opposite white column. What we are making? Lateral spinothalamic tract going upward. Which information it is taking? Lateral pain and temperature. Another group of fibers is also coming. They terminate at entry, and second order neurons cross to the anterior area and then go upward. What are these? Yeah? Crude touch. What is this pathway? Anterior spinothalamic. Is that right? Now lateral spinothalamic as well as anterior spinothalamic will meet with spinal pathway, spinotectal pathway at what level? In medulla, pons or midbrain? In medulla. And they will make which lemniscus? Spinal. And spinal lemniscal will go up to what? Again ventroposterolateral nucleus. So actually dorsal column system, dorsal column medial lemniscal system and anterolateral system both converge at ventro-posterolateral nucleus of thalamus. Above that, their pathway is similar. Is that right? Pain pathway specially connected with the reticular formation. Why? To alert the brain. Pain pathway is specially connected with intralaminar nuclei of the thalamus. For what? Again, to alert the brain, cerebral cortex. Pain pathway not only connected with postcentral gyrus but also connected with insular cortex. For which purpose? Autonomic responses. Pain pathway is specially connected with the cingulate gyrus. For which purpose? Emotional responses to pain. Is that clear? Now you recognize this pathway. You have to be rapid. Information come, second order neurons at the entry point greet the information, take it up through the inferior cerebellar peduncle, go to cerebellum. What is this? Yeah? Which spinocerebellar tract? Dorsal spinocerebellar tract. Now listen. Fibers come, terminate at entry, second order neuron cross, go up through the superior cerebellar peduncle, they go to cerebellum, within the cerebellum cross back. Ventral spinocerebellar pathway. Is there any difficulty? Is there any difficulty? Now I will rapidly make it and you have to tell me what pathway I have done. No talk, just name the pathway. Dorsal leminiscal pathway. Okay. Pathway has entered. Anterolateral system. It entered and it connected there. This and crossed. Look, the important point was dorsal column system moves upward in the spinal cord in uncrossed fashion and it crosses at lower medulla. Anterolateral system crosses at entry. Again listen. You have to recognize. What is this? Dorsal leminiscal system. Anterolateral system. Now you look at it. Spinocerebellar, which one? Dorsal. Anterior spinocerebellar. We have finished the major, all ascending tracts. There are few minor. 3 of them I will mention very briefly, only in 5 minutes. Just stop your watch. Now, we'll go to some 3 pathways I will mention. Okay, this is your cerebral hemisphere. Here it is midbrain, pons, medulla, spinal cord. I just make one section. Now look, the points which you have to understand, this is cerebral hemisphere. Of course, on the side there is cerebellum. This is inferior peduncle, middle peduncle and superior peduncle. Am I right? Now, what is happening? That fibers come and second order neurons from here at the level of entry move, cross to the opposite side and then go upward. And while they are going upward, they are connected with tectum here. What is this crossed pathway? Spinotectal pathway. What is this? Spinotectal pathway. If you really want to know exact position of tectum, then this is the midbrain, pons, medulla and spinal cord. These are the swellings on the back of the midbrain, right? This is called tectum. And fibers were entering there. And from here, fibers were connected with the tectum. That was a very simple pathway. This is called which pathway? Yes, please. Spinotectal pathway. But if you remember that in the medulla, it is joined by lateral spinothalamic as well as anterior spinothalamic, so it become a part of spinal lemniscus. You remember that? Tectospinal pathway. That's enough about tectospinal pathway. There is another pathway. Information comes, right, through dorsal root ganglion and dorsal sensory root, then second order neurons cross and they are going upward and they end up into olive. You know, there is olive. This is a gray mass of gray matter in where? Medulla oblongata. So in the olive. So this is spino-olivary pathway. First order neuron was in where? Dorsal root ganglion. Second order was in gray horn. Then second order neuron's extension went to the contralateral white column, ascend upward as spino-olivary tract. What is this? Spino-olivary tract. And through this tract, from the olive, information goes to cerebellum. This is another pathway, an extra pathway to take the information from the body to the cerebellum. Of course, which information is going through spino-olivary pathway? The information is proprioception, touch, pressure. Is that right? Now, or sense of position. So it is pathway somewhat like functionally somewhat like spinocerebellar pathway. Is that right? But actually, why it is called spino-olivary pathway? Because from spinal cord fibers go and terminate on the olive of the medulla, and from the medulla next order neurons from the olive of the medulla through the inferior cerebellar peduncle get connected to the cerebellum. Right? So tectospinal pathway was for which purpose? Visual reflexes. And olivospinal pathway is for proprioception. Right? Movement and posture. Right? So that information come here and cerebellum will compute information which is coming for utilization for movement and posture decisions. Is that right? Then there is one pathway. Fibers come here, they don't cross and simply go up. And what was this thing? And if pathway is going from spinal cord up to reticular formation, it is called spino-reticular pathway. This is simply to stimulate the reticular formation and stimulate the whole, increase the whole conscious level. Right? Now, after this discussion, we can say how many systems ascending tracts we have done. Let's classify the tracts. You already know what are tracts? Tracts are bundles of the axons, right, which are moving in central of a system up and down. Is that right? Having common origin and common termination, and functionally they are one group of fibers. Tracts are, yes, ascending and descending tract. Descending tracts I will not mention because we will discuss in the next lecture. Now, ascending tracts can be divided into major tracts and, yes, minor tracts. In the major tract, tracts for the, yes, tracts taking information for cerebrum and tracts for cerebellum. Is that right? Now, tracts for cerebrum, they were, yes, what was that system? Dorsal column, LEMINISCAL system. And what was the other system? Yes, please. ANTEROLATERAL system. Especially in dorsal column LEMINISCAL system, we had fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, and then what was there? Internal arcuate fibers, and that was going to medial, yes please, lemniscus, right? And then to ventroposterolateral nucleus. In anterolateral system, you must be knowing what was there in anterolateral system. There was, yes, pain and temperature pathway, which was lateral spinothalamic tract. Is that right? And other was crude touch, which was anterior spinocerebellar thalamic pathway. Both of them together plus tectospinal. Is that right? They make which lemniscus? Yes, all three of them. Anterior spinothalamic, lateral spinothalamic and tectospinal. They make what? Spinal. Yes, please. Lemniscus. And that also connect with the ventroposterolateral nucleus. And then going to, of course, corona, internal capsule, then corona radiata, and then postcentral gyrus. Is it difficult? Right? So then we come to the cerebellum. Cerebellum has two systems, three systems rather. One was dorsal spinocerebellar pathway, and with that there was another pathway from upper limb, cuneo-cerebellar pathway, and then which crosses at spinal cord and recrosses in cerebellum. What was the third pathway? Yes? Ventral spinocerebellar pathway. So how many cerebellar? Three. That is dorsal posterior spinocerebellar and cuneo-cerebellar and anterior or ventral spinocerebellar. Any problem up to this? There is no. Then minor tracts. Minor tracts, we can mention there are three. There are many, but three are important. Tectospinal. It is for what? Yes. For visual reflexes. It is connecting spinal cord with the tectum of midbrain. Then there is olivospinal. Olivospinal is taking proprioception from the spinal cord to the cerebellum for movement and posture analysis later. And third was reticulospinal, from spinal cord to reticular formation, to producing alerting reaction to the cerebral cortex. Any question up to this? Right, I will have few questions and then we terminate the class. If I say that there is a pathway taking pain and temperature upward, what is the name of the pathway? If I say there is crude touch going up, crude touch, yes? Anterior spinothalamic. If there is proprioception, sense of position going up, spinocerebellar pathway. What? Proprioception and sense of position going up. Then you have to ask me a question. Is it going to the conscious level or not conscious level? If it is conscious, then it is dorsal column system. If it is not conscious, then it is spinocerebellar pathway. Is that right? Because proprioception is going to the cerebellum as well as to the cerebrum. If I say there is a pathway which is connecting the spinal cord to reticular formation, what's the name of that? Spinoreticular. And pathway which is connecting spinal cord to the olive? I think it's too easy, isn't it? And if pathway connecting the spinal cord to the tectum? What is the function of spinotectal? What is the function of spino-OLIVARY? Proprioception, information to cerebellum. What is the function of spinoreticular? Activating the reticular formation and cerebral cortex. Okay, I will tell some features of a system and you have to tell me which pathway is there. There is a pathway which heavily connected with reticular formation and intralaminar nuclei. There is a pathway, ascending system, which is heavily connected with the reticular formation as well as intralaminar nuclei of thalamus. And at the top, it is not only connected with postcentral gyrus, but this pathway is also connected with cingulate gyrus as well as insular cortex. What is this pathway? Pain pathway. This is pain pathway, of course, anterolateral system. Is that right? I think it's enough for today. Class dismissed. Welcome.